Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Neglected Naruto was adopted by Mewtwo in Pokemon Universe Part 1. So do 4 blue hearts comment. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon, for I have upload Harry x Hermione uncensored spicy version, link in description. The sky became dark and low with ominous black clouds, and the wind picked up, howling, crying, warning, baying like a wolf into the night. The first crack of lightning rent the air, and within seconds the rolling boom of the thunder reverberated overhead. Soon the rain fell, slow to start, splattering the forest path haphazardly. Then it fell as if from buckets, cascading like a waterfall from the heavens. It pounded from outside to cave as if it were demanding entrance. The young Uzumaki had come to the small grotto in the mountains for solitude, to escape everything and everyone. He had anticipated it with such relish. But now he was here. Even the fire seemed cold, and he longed for some company. Being alone became an anguish rather than a salve. Naruto had been orphaned so young he had no recollections of what it had been like to have parents. Perhaps that was a mercy. If he could have remembered the hugs, cocooned in his parents' arms, being scooped off his feet the minute his lower lip trembled, he would not have lasted a week on the streets. He did not look for love, he did not expect it, he barely knew what it was. Anytime anyone mentioned the L word, it was in the context of an adversary and how they would exploit it to their advantage. There was no room for sentimentality in his life, only tough guys survived. Get out of here, you demon. You're nothing but a nuisance to us. We don't want you here. Just disappear. Being shunned was nothing new to him. It was the ridicule that came along with not following the social conduct. There was only hate and brutality from the ones looked up upon. It sucked to be oneself, especially if that self always stood outside watching, was never offered an umbrella for when it rained, or even frozen during a bonfire. That self could not join in with the crowd, and he never would. Shut up. The tiny blonde child lifted his head high, glaring at the villagers in anger. You will all regret being mean to me one day, all of you will. The blue-eyed child shouted at everyone staring at him, then turned on his heels, sprinting out into the forest, just wanting to be alone. The young Uzumaki ran until he could not run anymore. He didn't know how far he ran, he just wanted to leave everything behind. The young blonde went out to scrap up some firewood to warm up the fire from inside the cave before it started to pour down. Naruto left his little shelter to look for some fallen branches. A couple of bumblebees and fletchlings rummaging for shelter from the storm. Naruto waved to a few his Pokemon friends. Inu running for cover from the upcoming rainstorm. Living amongst the wild Pokemon was a dream come true for the young child. None of the Pokemon shunned him or avoided him at all, but welcomed him with open arms when he first arrived in their domain. The sky became dark and low with ominous black clouds, and the wind picked up. The first crack of lightning rent the air, and within seconds the rolling boom of the thunder reverberated overhead. Naruto leaned his back against a huge oak tree, sliding down on the ground, hoping the storm would quickly pass over. The blonde spotted streaks of light flashing over the leaf village from afar. He glared in disdain before turning away from the sight of the small community. I hated that place, the blonde thinking back from just being run out of the village for no reason. No one cares about me, maybe it would be better if I really disappeared, he said while tucking his head between his knees in sadness. Suddenly streaks of pure white crackled against a stormy blanket of gray. The young blonde looked up in surprise, spotting a shadowy figure falling out of the sky not too far away from where he was hiding. The blonde rushed toward the mysterious figure in worry and curiosity. When the blonde jumped over a few shrubs to get a closer look in what landed nearby, the blonde spotted the mysterious creature. He gasped in surprise in what he found. The creature was primarily gray with a long, purple tail. On top of its head are two short, blunt horns. A tube extends from the back of its skull to the top of its spine, bypassing its neck. It has a defined chest and shoulders, which resemble a breastplate. The 3 digits on each hand and foot have spherical tips. Its tail was thick at the base. Wow, is this a Pokemon? I have never seen a Pokemon like this before, the curious blonde said, rushing over to the downed unknown Pokemon. Naruto could clearly see the burn marks all over its body and the purple bruises all over its body that it as it must have suffered from a hard battle or attacked by someone. The little child looked around frantically hoping to find anything to help. The blonde looked over to an overly aged maple tree seeing the huge pieces of bark chipping off. The blonde had an idea. Naruto pulled the huge pieces of bark of the base of the tree and found some thick vines wrapped around a dead log not too far away. The child made a handmade sled for the mysterious Pokemon. Naruto rolled the huge Pokemon onto the bark and wrapped the thick green vines around his tiny wrist and pulling the sled away to safety away from the storm. Thunder cried out from the blackened sky, the clouds invisible above. Naruto shuddered, his teeth grinding in anticipation. A boom like that meant the heavens were about to let down a deluge and he had nowhere to hide. Naruto soon found himself back inside his man-shaped cave to hide from the storm. The young blonde quickly put the dry sticks from the other day in the cave into the all fire to keep him and the mysterious Pokemon warm, then went out into the unforgiving rain to savage for food and herbs for the unknown Pokemon injuries. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of you," he said, looking back at the unconscious Pokemon before going back out into the storm without a second thought. Without warning, eyes flung so wide each iris is a perfect orb of deep purple. After a second or two its head turns. Then looked around the cave confused on how it got here in the first place. Mewtwo looked down seeing the thick blue blanket covering him and the medical gaze wrapped around his arms and hind legs and a few band-aids covering on his face. What is going on here? Mewtwo thought to himself looking toward the already smoldered burnt fire pit. Hey, morning, well good afternoon to be honest. The powerful psychic type looked toward the mouth of the cave seeing a tiny figure running closer into the cave. The child smiles brightly seeing the mysterious Pokemon awake. Mewtwo looked up seeing the blonde child still unsure if this human is friend or foe. Long tangled hair blows about his face, obscuring the layers of grime. Mewtwo knew the blonde child was defenseless, no threat toward the power legendary. I brought you some breakfast, I hope you like picha and oran berries. The blonde excited ran over putting the arm full of berries next to the injured Pokemon. Mewtwo huffed while looked away uninterested in the sweet fruits. I had a feeling you may not be hungry when you woke up, that's why it went out and got you a wide selection because I didn't know which one you preferred, the child stated with a grin still plastered on his face. Mewtwo looked over seeing the vast amounts of berries pilled on a huge leaf in the back of the cave. He must have spent hours looking for this much food, Mewtwo thought in amazement, and then looked over again to the distracted blonde child putting away the rest of the medical supplies in his small backpack. Where am I, human? The genetic Pokemon asked to the mouth of the cave. Naruto looked up in amazement hearing the Pokemon speak to him with it mind. That's so cool. You can talk, how can you talk without moving your mouth like that? He grinned in eagerness. You did not answer my question first, human, Mewtwo sternly stated unfazed from the child's energetic behavior. Oh sorry, we outside the borders of a small village named Konoha. A small town over is named Vanillville town is a couple hours travel by foot, but to be precise we are in the outer forests in the Kalos region. Mewtwo pondered his current predicament for a second. The name's Naruto Uzumaki by the way, he explained rubbing the back of his head with a big smile. Mewtwo looked at the child with blonde long tangled hair blows about his face, oh. BS curing the layer of grime that is only broken by small scars on his tan cheeks. His clothes are of the summertime that passed several weeks ago and his cheekbones are more pronounced than they should ever be on one so young. At his age he should be cherubic, but instead he reminds of a lost child. What's your name, mister? The blonde sat on his knees while presenting the rest of his berry haul in front of the mysterious Pokemon. Mewtwo, he said looking down at the blue blanket he was currently draped over him. Mewtwo, that's a cool name. Why did you save me? What are you playing at, human? Subsequently Mewtwo past encounters with humans never been pleasant, except a couple run-in from psychotic organizations and the occasional poachers from time to time, but nothing he couldn't hold on his own. I wanted to save you because you're you. I didn't want you to leave, because you're you. I can't find another reason. I don't need another reason to save you, do I? The blonde said confused. Mewtwo looked up in surprise. Nevertheless looked down at his paws in his lap. You should go back home, human, someone would be worried where you been. Naruto then looked down to the ground quiet. I don't have anyone waiting for me, I'm alone, I have always been alone all my life. No one cares that I'm missing. I see, Mewtwo looking over to the abandoned child in pity thinking he is just like him, alone. Are you alone too? The blonde asked sitting down, wrapping his arms around his knees waiting for a response. The one person who I thought understood me was just using me all along. No one ever treated me as an equal. Humans are all trash. They did not listen when I said that it hurt. They did not listen when I told them to stop. They didn't listen to anything I said. Mewtwo Ang. Riley shouted, clenching his paws, thinking back to Giovanni using him as a tool. How can you move forward if you keep regretting the past? Mewtwo swiftly snapped, his eyes up meeting the child's blue orbs. Mewtwo snapped back at the small child. You don't know anything. What the hell is up with you, child? Trying to be the hero. Feel like some all-powerful main character. So annoying. Why? When? Where? What? How will you do, and just who will you become? You're just pretending by spouting your ideals. You have nothing. You won't become someone. The blonde just smiled despite the psychic-type harsh words toward him. The two of us aren't so different, Mewtwo. My whole life I've sought after attention from others. I felt bitter to the people around me and I closed off my heart. Got in a heart that lets nothing in. Will become empty before you realize it. But in this world, you'll sometimes meet meddlesome people who will, even without asking, give you the love you need. And for someone like you or me, meeting such a person is very blissful. He grinned back at the genetic Pokemon. Naruto looked back into the ember of the fire in front of them. After being driven out of the orphanage, I had nothing to eat, nowhere to sleep. And, as one might expect, not a cent to my name. That is how I've arrived at my current predicament, the blonde said, picking at the burning flames from the small fire with a small branch. Mewtwo thought back to the experiments from being created and almost destroying the world with his army of cloned Pokemon. Naruto looked over to Mewtwo, noticing the stain of guilt in the Pokemon's eyes. It's fine. Everyone makes mistakes. You just need to make an effort not to make the same mistake again. The blonde's eyes lightened while smiling back at Mewtwo. Liars always say the same things. I'll believe in you. I'll protect you. I care about you. I'll never believe that again. No one will ever protect me. I won't even think about it. I'll fight alone, live alone, and die alone. I know. I've felt it on my skin and in my body. That it's better not to believe in anyone than believe and be betrayed. Mewtwo glared away from the blonde, gazing at the shadows that danced along the walls of the cave. The only one who can decide your worth is you. If you want to earn something, you need to reach out for it. That's how it always works. To make your ambitions come true, you have to take risks. The larger the ambition, the greater the risk. That might involve time or enough work to affect your lifespan. So make your choice. Live in peace as a wan neighbor, risk losing it all to reach the very top. You're the one who needs to decide. Mewtwo looked back to consider the blonde's words before spotting the child getting back up on his feet to pat the rest of the dirt from his tattered shorts. Are you leaving already? Just for a little while. I need get some more water for both of us before it gets dark, the child said, picking up a tiny canteen by the pack full of medical supplies. I won't be long, Mewtwo. I be back in a bit, okay? He beamed before wrapping the side sling of the canteen around his shoulders before heading back out of the cave's main entrance. Why do you smile so much even though you are in so much pain? Naruto stopped for a moment, still facing the mouth of the cavern. Mewtwo observed the small child's still form for a moment, waiting for a response. I smile. Not for anyone else, but for myself. Show yourself your own smile. You'll feel better then. Naruto turned back with a smile, already spotting Mewtwo mouth twitched. And he was pretty sure he was fighting a smile too. Naruto Uzumaki, how do I know you won't try to capture me once I let my guard down? Mewtwo questioned before the blonde disappeared back outside the mouth of the cave. You just have to trust me, the child said, beaming back at the powerful legendary before racing out to the cave to search for water. Trust. I hate that word, but, coming from him it sounds different. Mewtwo's mouth twitched in a small smile. The pair talked for hours. Well, mostly Naruto talked while Mewtwo listened on while eating some of the berries Naruto gathered for him. And there they passed through the long courses, at first talking lightly, but excitedly, the comfort of someone just there to listen to you and be there beside them. It was something the Pokemon never experienced before. It was a nice feeling. Mewtwo knew he had to take some time to heal up and rest for a few weeks before taking off again. Naruto was sad that Mewtwo said he would leave once he was fully healed. But the blonde understood and was happy to help him be more relaxed and comfortable before leaving. The young blonde smiled, picking up small twigs and sticks for tonight's fire, making sure they were nice and dry. The young Uzumaki smiled, thinking of the last couple weeks he spent with Mewtwo. He learned that Mewtwo was a legendary Pokémon that was created from an evil organizatee. Unnamed Team Rocket using him for their evil purposes. Mewtwo also said he was on a journey alone to just belong somewhere and to atone for his sins from the past. The psychic type explained. A group of poachers spotted him and tried to capture him while helping some Pokémon that were in trouble along the way. However, he got away just in time but got injured in the process in trying to escape. The night Naruto found him was when Storm covered his tracks before the poachers captured him. Mewtwo thinks they are still out there and would not give up until they caught him. Poor Mewtwo is constantly on the run. The whole world is trying to catch him to just use him. Naruto's eyes flashed in anger just thinking of the psychic type just trying to live in peace, nevertheless being hunter because of its power. Naruto also shared with Mewtwo about Old Man Hokage and the friendly folks of the ramen shack called Ichiraku. The school he attended was not pleasant either, the educators teaching him the wrong things and not helping him if he got something wrong. The Leaf Village hating him and shunning him away, as well as kicked out of the orphanage for no reason. Mewtwo asked if he wanted him to terminate the whole village for him. The blonde child eyes almost popped out of his head from the legendary Pokémon's bold statement of destroying his former home. Naruto thinking the psychic type was just joking around to make him feel better. But Mewtwo's stone-cold face told the blonde he was serious in his statement. Naruto rejected the Pokémon's invitation in demolition to the Leaf Village but thanked him all the same for his consideration. Naruto enjoyed Mewtwo's quiet personally, even though he can be harsh and cold, but he was fair during their brief conversations when the psychic type actually spoke to him. And Mewtwo enjoyed the blonde child's company, even though the blonde can be extremely annoying at times. Naruto was collecting fresh water from the nearby stream for Mewtwo since it should be resting and recuperating from its injuries. The young blonde volunteered to fetch some cool water for the still wounded psychic type. Mewtwo nodded, saying he would await his return. The small can't nearly filled up to the top before Naruto spotted groups of strange people dressed in all black with bulky body armor and guns making their way deeper into the forest. Naruto could feel the wickedness from them even across the river. Why are they here? Mewtwo said he gave those creeps the slip when the storm was happening. They shouldn't be looking for him at all. The blonde thought, sprinting back the way he came to the cave. I have to protect Mewtwo no matter what. The blonde thought to himself in determination. Mewtwo or okay. The said psychic type was confused by the child's hurried state. Seeing the child panting, hunched over on his knees trying to catch his breath. What is going on? Thank goodness you didn't leave the cave. There's a group of those poachers you mentioned before coming in this direction. But you are not fully recovered yet. Just stay here for a bit, I'll lead them away from this location. I know I am weak, but I can at least keep them from coming this way. So please stay here. His blonde hair shielded his eyes from view. Mewtwo looked back down, spotting the water he requested early by his bedroll he was resting on. Mewtwo growled and turned to the mouth of the cave. He felt the presence of several unknown individuals getting closer. Naruto, do not be foolish. Don't worry about me, just stay safe. Mewtwo admired the blonde's will to protect him. But Mewtwo was clearly not comfortable with leaving the boy to fend off the incoming threat. I know that I have no strength to offer. It irritates me how weak I am. But let me protect you. Naruto pleaded before leaving back out. Mewtwo got up into its feet the first time in the last couple weeks it was bedridden. Naruto took care of his every need, so there was no reason to leave the cavern in the first place. Mewtwo padded toward the entrance in irritation of these insignificant insects disrupting his rest. I will make sure they will pay. Mewtwo, please just. Mewtwo had enough of the blonde child's self-sacrificing words. Stop trying to solve everything by yourself. Do not forget that you are not alone. Naruto looked at Mewtwo in surprise. Do not be so quick to throw away your life. No matter how disgraceful or embarrassing it may be, you need to keep struggling to find your way out until the very end. The blonde looked down in frustration in feeling weak and not having any way to help his only friend. You taught me what it means to care for someone else than myself. and for that I will be eternally grateful," Mewtwo said, patting the blonde's head in gratification. "No, I'm the one who is grateful. That's because you're all willing to be my friend. For that, I'm grateful," blonde beamed back at Mewtwo. The bond between both human and Pokémon shared a small smile before heading out to face the battle ahead. The duo made quick work of the power-hungry poachers that were after Mewtwo. Naruto distracted the thieves while Mewtwo using teleport to make the blonde disappeared. And reappeared in the dense forest without the thieves even noticing. Mewtwo picked off the rest of them one by one while the group was distracted by the blonde child taunting them. The grunts were so transfixed on the child they did not notice their buddies vanishing. Naruto tied up all the poachers together. Mewtwo erased all of their memories of ever meeting them while teleporting them in the village in front of Officer Jenny and Officer Anko's police station. Mewtwo also destroyed the machines they brought with them and shattered the Pokeballs they had on their person, setting all the Pokémon free from the poachers that was forcefully captured against their will. The blonde was grateful things had calmed down since the previous disaster that almost happened in the forest. There was a CH party looking for the equipment the poachers used but did not find anything since Mewtwo destroyed all the machines and set all the Pokémon free. The blue-eyed child looked up seeing the blue sky as streaked with the most beautiful sunset he had ever seen. The sky was filled with the most brilliant orange complemented perfectly with hues of red and crimson, hints of green lingering behind with the bluish-gray of the forthcoming night sky. Mewtwo is leaving today. I know I shouldn't be sad, but the tears flowed unchecked down his scared cheeks and dripped from his chin. He was too sad to cry out or wail. Naruto Uzumaki, the blonde, wiped his head around spotting his only friend standing there dressed in a tan tethered cloak around its frame. The small blonde walked forward with his head down, his long blonde locks covering his cerulean orbs. "It seems like we spent a long time together, but it wasn't. It was actually pretty short. Too short. So I kind of know, but I kind of don't know what I want to say," Naruto said in a whisper, his body quivering from trying to hold his tears back. "The more fun I have, the more it will hurt when we part ways. I know that all too well," the child said, hoping to be able to meet his only friend again someday. The blonde child ran forward to sob into Mewtwo's clothed chest unceasingly, hands clutching at his cloak. The child held the powerful psychic type in silence. Mewtwo held the child while rocking him slowly as Naruto tears soaked his robe. A tiny lapse let him pull away, blinking eyes heavy with tears, before he collapsed again, his howls of misery worsening. The pain must have come in waves, minutes of sobbing broken apart by short pauses for recovering breaths, before hurling himself back into the outstretched arms of the psychic type. "I have no idea what you really want, what you're really thinking, or what the right thing to do really is. But I'm your friend. Please let me stay with you. I know I'm a weak human, but please take me with you. You are my only friend, Mewtwo. I do not want to be alone anymore." The child trembled with tears streaming down his cheeks, still clenching onto the tethered robes. Naruto knew Mewtwo would not even consider take him along. "You've always seen yourself as just a normal human, and you're right, that's exactly what you are. You're normally caring, normally cheerful, and you're normally noisy. You've a strong moral compass, concern for your friends, and honor. I know you don't see this, but what's normal to you, well, it's far from it. Everyone else would call it courageous and noble. It's because of the person you are that you don't think twice about your own safety when it comes to helping your friends. Because that is just normal to you." The blonde child looked up in disbelief. Tear streaks still coming down his scared cheeks in hearing the legendary Pokémon words. "If you were not here, I do not know what would have happened to me. You cannot live in this world alone. No matter how I look at it." The blonde taking him in and nursing him back to health without asking anything in return. The blonde peeked up at the taller Pokémon. "I want to change things. I want to believe that anything can be changed. The moment I met you, a new world opened up for me. You see, after wandering in the darkness for so long, a light brought me happiness. It is all thanks to you." He blonde rubbed the back of his head from bashfulness from the praise. Mewtwo stretched out his paw. The blonde looked into the eyes of Mewtwo, seeing a real smile for the first time. Mewtwo nodded toward the blonde's backpack. The child opened the bag, gulped a bit before pulling out a purple, with a white letter, M, on the front, with a pink circle on either side. Pokeball from the pack, hold it up. A Master Ball. Wondering how Mewtwo gotten a hold of this ultra-rare Pokeball. You trusted me, so I will trust you too. That is what being friends means, right? Mewtwo said while bowing down to the blonde child. Naruto beamed in eagerness, tapping the Master Ball against the Psychic-type forehead before it beamed inside the ball. The ball shook around 3 times before a tiny tick noise sounded. Indicating the Pokemon has been successfully caught. Naruto jumped up in excitement in attaining his first Pokemon ever, even though the Pokemon himself wanted to be caught. Naruto released Mewtwo from his ball. Are you sure about this, Mewtwo? Yes, I am sure. In a way you are protecting me, he nodded back with a smile. Mewtwo, I may not strong and I do not have anything to offer you, but I will not give up, while staring off to the sunset in silence and resolve. The circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. Mewtwo said, eel holding out an outstretched paw to the blonde child. Naruto beamed, putting on his backpack in eagerness before grabbing onto the Psychic-type paw while being lifted off the ground surrounding the bee. Blonde Uzumaki in a blue aura protectively. My dream was to become the Hokage, the strongest Pokemon trainer in the village, but I do not know anymore, Naruto said, looking toward the setting sun in distance while the two still hovering in the air. Is that not what you wish? The legendary asked. I still do want to be the strongest, but not just of this village but the whole world. I don't need the villagers' approval to be strong. I can do it with my own 2 hands, the child looking back to the sunset while staying quiet, allowing himself to stay lost in the moment a while longer. Now there is another reason why I helped you, Mewtwo. The Psychic type looked over to the small child in curiosity. Old man Hokage always says, strangers are just friends you haven't met yet. The blonde Uzumaki beamed up at his only friend and first Pokemon. I see, Mewtwo smirked, turning back to stare into the sunset once more. More than anyone else, humanity is a species which looks forward to tomorrow. Because of their dreams, they can bear with the unjustness of the present. If this is the path you choose to walk, I will help you get stronger. No matter what painful things happens, even if you fail miserably and get in a tight spot, I will be there. Mewtwo nodded toward his trainer in respect. Thank you, Mewtwo. So, come Naruto Uzumaki, let us depart this place and start anew. The blonde nodded. I don't know what exactly I will be able to do for you, but I'll always be by your side. Believe it. Both trainer and Pokemon body glows white and they also become surrounded in lines of white light. They both then disappeared, not leaving a trace behind. The name Naruto Uzumaki will go down in history. Professor Sycamore stretched out his arms into the early summer morning. The weather is gorgeous today. He always knew it would be a fine day when he couldn't feel the temperature of the air. Outside had the sweet fragrance of freshly cut grass and the fletchlings chattered in the trees. The sky was blue with just a few stratus clouds making their unhurried way toward the ocean. The sun was already a friendly ball of yellow above, promising more heat as the day progressed. All in all, he couldn't have asked for better weather. It's finally here. The moment of truth, the stepping stone to the real world. This is what they've been preparing us for. After 13 memorable years, through the good, bad, idiotic, fun and change, it was finally time. Time to step out into that bright light, shake the hand of an administrator and grab the ticket to freedom. The fresh new rookie trainers were heading over today pick up their first Pokemon. A group of teenagers were gathered in the capital city of Luminous. In the Pokemon laboratory of Professor Sycamore. The group of teens in front of him and some of his lab assistants. There were 9 of them, 3 girls and 6 guys. The lavender-eyed girl stood shyly between 2 boys who were part of the Inuzuka and Aburame clan from Konoha. The 2 girls' voices rose above the sacred silence. A glance, touch, and one small comment stirred a hurricane of harsh and hoarse insults between them. They were both thin girls, but one had long blonde hair up in a long ponytail with blue eyes and the other baby pink locks sweeping jade green eyes. One of the 6 guys that looked bored out of his mind was laid back scanning the room. Ost have asleep, while the plumper one was consumption a bag of barbecue chips with a smile in silence. The pale-skinned one seemed to be drawing the enterer of the lab itself with a fake smile. The last on, he was the second son of the leader of the infamous Uchiha clan. They were the type of people that always were pretty difficult to deal with but were respected in owning the TM factories around the world. The reports showed he was at the top of his class, a real prodigy. The professor never saw grades this perfect since last year's rookie, Nage Hyuga. Professor Sycamore made a heartfelt speech about starting a new adventure and making new friends. Right before the professor could finish his inspirational speech, he was cut off by a mighty roar coming from outside. It was nothing like human speech or bird song, but more of a raw sound that started deep within his body and was projected into the air with so much force that it would be heard for miles around. The professor told all the staff, MBER and assistants to stay in the lab until he returned, and told the group of teens to follow a few of the staff into a different room just to be safe, and rushed outside to see what the commotion was about. The professor gasped, spotting the Pokémon what just made that thunderous roar. The Pokémon itself was a large quadruped, draconic Pokémon with a long, tapering tail. It was lime green in color, and had red wings and 3 spikes on either side of its face resembling external gills. It also had ridges above its eyes and had red markings on its throat. It was a very intimidating Pokémon, and everyone back as they were surprised at its sudden appearance and slightly panicked, wondering why such a Pokémon was here. He also noticed that there was someone with a tattered hood riding on its back. After they pulled the hood down, they hopped off the Pokémon before landing on the ground swiftly. The teen was pretty tall, and slim with long messy, blonde hair and purple eyes. He was typical, sporting a tattered cloak and a pair of baggy, black pants, a black, leather jacket, but you could still see his muscles, black laced-up high-top sneakers, an orange shirt with a necklace hung around his neck with a master ball connected to the string under his shirt, and a pair of black fingerless gloves. He also wears a mega ring on his left wrist. The torn cloak was courtesy from Mewtwo. Professor Sycamore was utterly speechless. "Are you Professor Sycamore, by any chance?" the blonde teen asked politely. The professor noticed some of his long blonde tresses cover his left eye. His hair looks like moderate just blonde. The professor nodded dumbly, still wary from the oversized shiny dragon, that was at least twice the size of a normal salamence. The green dragon nuzzling lovingly up to the mysterious blonde, its huge tail wagging joyfully, acting like overly pleased Lilpup pup. Then something clicked in the professor's head when he saw the blonde scratching the huge dragon under its chin, in an affectionate way, making the dragon purr. "By any chance is your name Naruto Uzumaki?" The blonde looked back to the professor, not expecting anything out of the ordinary. Professor Sycamore aped toward the blonde teen in a comical fashion, rushing over to shake his hand at a speedy pace, with tears almost in his eyes. "I have heard all about you from both Steven and Professor Oak, and read all of your latest reports and data findings on Mega Evolution and your research on legendary Pokémon. I truly respect your work, Mr. Uzumaki." No problem, Professor Sycamore. I am happy to help out any way I can. To anyone wanting to learn more on Pokémon theories, the blonde said, trying to pull back his hand from the overly enthusiastic Mega Evolution specialist. "I got a call from Steven just his morning saying one of his younger colleagues wanted to start their journey and participate in the Kalos League. I did not even think he was speaking about you. Even though I have the connections to probably battle the Elite Four off the back, I want to contribute in earning all 8 badges like any other individual my age. It is the only reasonable way to do it." The professor respected the blonde teen decision in working for the title instead of something give to him on a silver platter. "Oh yeah, just call me Naruto, Mr. Uzumaki is too formal. You are still my senior professor," he smiled up at the professor's sheepish expression. "Is it all right if I leave my Pokémon out here? I know she would not be able to fit past the door." "Oh, of course, why don't you have her fly to the back of the lab? I think your small entrance caught some curious stares." The blonde looked back, noticing a mass of people crowding around the gates of the lab, hoping to get a picture or a video of the colossal green dragon. Naruto nodded in embarrassment, telling her to fly around the back of the laboratory. The green dragon gave the blonde a lick on his whiskered cheek before giving a powerful flap of her wings and taking off into the air around to the backyard. "To tell you the truth, she looks really frightening." The professor led the blonde teen inside to get his Pokédex updated and registered for the Kalos League. "Who Toru?" The professor looks at him confusedly at the blonde from the unexpected name. "That is the name I gave her. She looks unapproachable, but under all those green scales she is a total sweetheart. The blonde smiled, nodding to himself. The professor had a fearful expression, thinking if the blonde thought the enormous dragon was a sweetheart, what was a monster to him. When the duo came though the foyer, the other lab assistants came over in a rush, worriedly asking if everything was okay. The professor informed them everything was fine, and the issue was taken care of. I am worried about the unexpected drop in Professor. No worries, Naruto. It's not every day you see a shiny Pokemon up close, so I think it's a treat for everyone, he grinned. One of the lab aides were wheeling out a group of starters from both the Kalos and Kanto region. Oh, I didn't know you had new trainers picking up their Pokemon today. The blonde noticed the starters but was slightly curious because Froakie was missing from the lineup, but then again didn't comment on it. Yes, there are rookies for Konoha's prep school. While the professor was walking down the hall ahead of the young blonde, he missed the sudden change of his deep purple eyes turning crimson for a split second. Aren't you from Konoha, Naruto? Professor looked back to the blonde, just missing the flash of red from his irises. Yes, a very long time ago, but I have traveled to so many places I do not think that is my real home. Just my birthplace. The professor nodded, understanding the blonde's interpretation in having a real home somewhere else instead of your birthplace. The pair walked into the large meeting room where he left the students and some of his staff members to watch over them. The staff rushed over, making sure everything was okay before spotting the mysterious blonde standing beside the professor. Hinata was the first to gasp, immediately recognized her longtime crush from just a glance. Naruto-kun. She softly blushed, looking at his attractive face and long blonde locks. Naruto. All the teens shrieked out at the same time. What is that dope doing here? The Uchiha grumbled. He deserted the village long ago. The pink kid screeched. What's the deal? Ino yelled. Hey professor, why is this dropout here? The Inuzuka pointed. Enough, I do not want to hear another word out of any of you. You will show our guest with respect, do you understand? The professor yelled, scolding the teens. Now to answer you all question, Naruto is here, just get his Pokédex updated and sign up for the upcoming Kalos League like most of you. Professor, may I use the video phone please? Naruto said with closed eyes the entire time the professor scolded the fresh rookies. Of course, Naruto, just dial 1 before tipping your contact number. The blonde nodded, walking over to the huge video screen overlooking the whole room. The other teens glared over at the blonde, except a few, but he didn't even care that they were in the same room as him. What makes that dobe so special? Sasuke growled at the back of the blonde's head. You don't know. Mr. Uzumaki won the Juniors Kalos Pokemon League tournament last year. One of the lab aides said, bring over a stack of papers. I also heard he won every single one of the Clubsplosion tournaments in the Unova region, another one added in. Do not forget the Elemental Regions type Pokemon tournament too. One of the female aides walked over, joining in the conversation. What is that? I never heard of that tournament before. Sakura asked the lab attendants conversating. It is a type expert tournament for professional trainer which only Pokemon of a specific type can participate. This is the list of the Pokemon World Tournament participants in the type expert tournament meant that specialize in the type chosen for the competition. She explained. Do you remember which type he had entered? She asked the group of teens, now curious from the discussion. I don't remember what Pokemon he had entered with. But I do know that it was Dragon types only tournament. I've heard, the rookies gasped from the information given. Professor Sycamore came over, was congratulating young teens, handing them their multicolored Pokédex. The young Uchiha gripped onto his dark blue Pokédex, glared at the blonde in jealousy, entering numbers on the huge monitor screen. Everyone knows. Dragon types were the most stubborn types and only someone that was skilled enough could tame one. Wondering which Pokemon, the dope entered and even won the whole competition with, thought the Uchiha with a scowl. Sakura wanted to shout out to the lab attendants that Sasuke could win the whole tournament with his eyes closed, but was nervous from all the success and difficult tournaments that Naruto competed in while still coming out the victor, and he was not even a full trainer yet. It was a bit intimidating. She was worried about Sasuke-kun, and actually had the thought of him losing to the blonde. Ino was on the same boat as Sakura, but her mindset was that she had every fiber in her body confident that Sasuke would take Naruto down, regardless of the tension he was causing. Shikamaru could only stare with just a lazy look. But there was a sparkle of curiosity in those eyes, wanting to question more about the blonde. Choji stopped eating his chips with wide eyes as he watched the scene unfold. But also curious like his lazy friend wanting to know more. Shino was silent and calm during the tension, but that didn't make Shino flinch or anything outwardly. Hinata was shivering a little from hearing a bit on the blonde's past triumphs, but that would not stop her from trying to approach the blonde, hoping she would the chance to at least speak to her crush. Kiba held back a snarl as He looked at the blonde boy's back as he types on the computer screen. Thinking on the same lines as Sasuke. Wondering how strong Naruto really was. Clinching tightly onto his dark brown Pokédex in frustration. Sai was just smiling unresponsively, not reading the edgy atmosphere. Naruto entered in his number the large screen as the group of teens still observing him from a good distance, still flabbergasted at the blonde's success. The whiskered-faced teen did not care of the group's amazed stares and harsh comments. Their words means nothing, he does not have to prove anything to them or anyone from that god-forsaken village. The computer monitor flashed to life, displaying a tall, thin young man with ice blue hair and eyes wearing an expensive charcoal suit. Naruto-kun, I see you made it to Professor Sycamore's lab just fine. I'm glad you decided to call me. I just finished looking at your last report about those Z crystals from the islands. I was very impressed from the detail you writ. The young man with icy-colored hair nodded to the blonde with a smile. The group was lost from words, seeing someone of the same age talking to the champion of the Hoenn region like he is his equal. A few of the women in the room had hearts in their eyes, including Ino and Sakura. None of them knew the blonde did scientific research for any of the professors or worked side by side with a few of the champions from different regions. How is Chrome doing? Naruto cracked a big grin while the others looking confused from the unknown name. The whiskered teen pulled a Pokeball with a dark blue top with lighter blue circles on either side from the central button, and the lowermost of which are tiny and almost the same shade of blue as the majority of the top. A heavy ball. Come out, Chrome. The flash from the ball died down, displaying a robotic Pokémon with teal, metallic skin. It has a disc-shaped body with a pair of flat, gray spikes on either side toward the rear. There is a gray spike in the middle of its face. Similar to a nose. A pair of red eyes reside in 2 holes in its metallic skin. While it appears to lack legs, it has a pair of thick arms with 3 claws on the ends. A stud. Why Metang floating behind the blonde like a loyal bodyguard. You see, Chrome is doing just fine. It evolved a few days ago. The blonde nodded proudly back to the Iron Claw Pokémon. His old classmates held out their Pokédex to the floating steel type. Metang. Iron Claw Pokémon. When 2 Beldum fuse together, Metang is formed. The brains of the Beldum are joined by a magnetic nervous system. By linking its brains magnetically, this Pokémon generates strong psychokinetic power. Level 37 abilities. Clear body, light metal. This Metang is registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Sasuke's jealousy skyrocketed, saying the Dobi with a powerful Pokémon that should belong to him to defeat his brother. Steven nodded, congratulating the blonde in evolving his Beldum so quickly. Everyone seemed to be engrossed in the charm. Paion's conversation with the teen that they were just watching in anticipation what was going to happen next. Naruto looked back, calling over the professor, so the adults share some words of the latest research Naruto revealed about if Mega Stones and Z Crystals were connected in any way. Naruto just stood to listen to just give his feedback when asked a question on the data he reported. What the whole group didn't notice was there was a small presence of a pair of yellow eyes peering at the blonde in pure curiosity and wonder from the second floor. The blonde sensed something examining them. He looked up to the second floor of the lab, spotting nothing out of the ordinary, but felt a small aura, but the blonde just left the curious gaze alone. Okay, I have to get back to the research team. Make sure you call Cynthia as well, you know she worries about you too. The blonde returns the Iron Claw Pokémon before sighing, informing Steven he would call her tomorrow when he gets to Santaloon City. Call ending with the icy-haired male waved by, telling the blonde to take care of himself and call back anytime. I don't believe it, the young Yamanaka said out loud, stupefied. Troublesome, the lazy. Nara thought, leaning back against the wall. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. Choji thought around the same lines as his best friend. Naruto Baka knows not just one but two champions. You heard him mention the champion, Cynthia, didn't you? The pink-haired teen hissed, trying to whisper but failed. How does he know them in the first place? I smell some juicy gossip. The other blonde female, really wanting the details how Naruto was so buddy-buddy with the champs. I don't think you're going to get any information out of Naruto. Why? Because he did not even acknowledge us being in the same room. Shino explains. Here is my Pokédex, Professor. The importing system is on the side. The blonde handing over his sleek black and orange device over to the professor so he could update it. Professor plugged up the blonde's Pokédex, uploading the new information. When the blonde was waiting for his updated Pokédex, the other staff wheeled out the cart of Pokéballs for the RO's to choose their first Pokémon partners. The other staff asked if the blonde wanted some tea while he waits for his updated Pokédex. Naruto nodded. Professor Sycamore came back with Naruto's Pokédex with a smile. Then went over handing out the new rookie's Pokémon and extra Pokéballs. When one of the female assistants came back with the tea for the young Uzumaki, she noticed some movement coming from inside the blonde's torn cape. Mr. Uzumaki, your cloak is moving, she shrieked, pointed at his cloak nervously. The blonde looked down, petting the small form inside his cloak gently. Hey, did you have a good nap? He calmly asked the smaller figure, making everyone think he was crazy until the group just noticed that there was something small riding inside the blonde's cape. What popped out was a small cream-colored rabbit-like Pokémon with round bright blue eyes, long pointed flame orange V-shaped ears, and small orange paws and feet. All the lab aide and the professor was lost for words. No way is that one of the aides pointed out. It can't be, it's a Victini. They cried out in admiration. The teens didn't know what the unknown Pokémon was, so they all held up their Pokédex to get more info. Victini, Victory Pokémon. When it shares the infinite energy it creates, that being's entire body will be overflowing with power. This Pokémon brings victory. It is said that trainers with Victini always win, regardless of the type of encounter. Level 45 abilities, Victory Star. This Victini is female and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. The Uchiha glared daggers at the blonde for having a legendary Pokémon. He doesn't even know the half of it. The group eyes couldn't get any bigger seeing a mythical Pokémon up close. Sakura and Ino cooed in looking into the pearly eyes of rabbit-like Pokémon as it yawned cutely. They squealed from the fire type's adorability. Amazing, I never seen one before. One of the lab aides getting too close to the legendary Victini was soon terrified by all these new faces. It hurriedly turned invisible, vanishing from everyone's sight. What they didn't know that Hikari was still stationed on the blonde's shoulder for safety. Hey, where did it go? One of the aides asked, looking around for Victini. I am sorry about that, but Hikari is very wary around strangers. She will turn invisible if she feels too many eyes on her. He rubbed his blonde locks bashfully. It is quite all right, it's all of our faults for crowding you, Professor Sycamore explained. The other lab assistants also bowed in apology from being so assertive toward Naruto and the mythical fire type. There was quite a selection of different types for the rookies, so the professor did pairs of 3, so everyone gets a turn to choose a partner. Sasuke, Sakura and Sai got to see who's first because of their high grades. Sakura taunted Ino, saying she got to pick first because she was smarter than her. Ino retaliated back just as spiteful. Sasuke picked a proud-looking Charmander. Sakura picked a fiery Fennec, and wanting to match the same types as her sweet Sasuke, Sai said he wanted to pick from the forest from inside the laboratory. Even though that was an odd request, the professor he allowed it. Sai walked out of the forests, befriended a jolly Smeargle behind him. Ino a sassy Bulbasaur, saying her Pokémon was way cuter than Sakura's furball she picked, making another quarrel over nothing. Shikamaru said it was a total drag, but he went to search the forest as well, coming out with an Abra sleeping on his shoulder. Whereas Choji eagerly picked up modest Squirtle as his choice. Kiba, Shino and Hinata similarly walked in the forest to search for a partner. Kiba ran out with a Growlithe nipping at his heels playfully. Shino had a Sawaddle hanging from his hood. Hinata held a cautious Ralts poking its head out of her bulky jacket, trying to hide itself. Professor Sycamore nodded to all of their choices with a proud grin, giving them one more lecture before setting off on their journey in entering the Kalos League, or wanting to be Kalos Queen. Ino's and Sakura's eyes sparkled from the information. Hinata wanted to enter a contest to be queen too, but not as enthusiastically as the two girls. The blonde informed Professor Sycamore that he was leaving, but the tall man followed behind the blonde out into the courtyard, telling the young blonde to keep him updated on any rare sights of Pokémon. Naruto waved bye to the professor's staff before walking outside to standing in the middle of the mock battlefield out back. Looking around the lush garden, not spotting Toru nearby. The blonde whistled a high-pitched sound. A roar followed from the greenery. Toru cried out as she lumbered past the shaded tree line, making her way towards the blonde teen, nearly knocking Naruto over as she slammed her head into his stomach in an attempt to cuddle. While Victini reappeared out of thin air, gliding over to the large dragon to get settling down on her back, trying to get comfortable. The blonde scratched Toru's chin as she purred. "Hey girl, you ready to hit the road?" Her reply was a big lick from the dragon's rough tongue. Professor shook the blonde's hand once more before the blonde was about to board his shiny dragon. He heard a yell calling out to him. "Naruto, I challenge you to a battle. And I'm not taking no for an answer." The young Uchiha demanded marched over to the blonde. The group is followed them as well interested. The group was surprised and scared out of their minds noticing the massive dragon behind the blonde teen. The group pull out their Pokédex. To learn more, know this Pokémon was on the pseudo-legendary list, not to mention one of the most dangerous Pokémon out there. Salamence, dragon Pokémon. By evolving into Salamence, this Pokémon finally realizes its long-held dream of growing wings. To express its joy, it flies and wheels all over the sky while spouting flames from its mouth. It's uncontrollable if enraged. It flies around spouting flames and scorching fields and mountains. Level 72 abilities, Intimidate, Moxie. This Salamence is female and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Toru completely towered over the group, snarling at the dark-haired prick that dared challenge her master. The group backed away, seeing the malicious glint in the massive dragon eyes that promised pain if they even looked at the orange-wearing teen funny. Quote, "Why do you think I would battle you, Tem?" The blonde landed back on the ground looking at the stuck-up Uchiha with a blank expression on his face. Ino and Sakura looked like they wanted to but caught themselves before they said something stupid. "I want to battle you to Naruto." The blonde cut his visible eye over to the Kiba with a determined look on his face. Naruto gave a harsh look to he two teens before replacing it with a grin. "If that's what you want, then fine, let's battle, but only one of you or none at all. I don't have time to waste around battling rookies fresh from the Academy," he exclaimed, turning away from the pair, walking over to the opposite side of the battlefield. Toru following behind the blonde, going to lay down on the sidelines to watch with Hikari still on her huge back, observing the battle as well. Naruto closed his eyes, folding his arms, not caring who faced him. Sasuke got picked to battle Naruto, making the Inuzuka sulk on the side. The teens were eager to see how the match would go, or be brooding like a certain Inuzuka boy. Sasuke marched forward with a confident smirk on his face, taking out his Pokeball. One of the lab assistants offered to be the battle official. "All right. This is a one-on-one battle between Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. Trainers, send out your Pokemon." The lab assistant called out to the two teens. "I bet you just cheated your way up to the top. You're nothing but Adobe, always were and always will be," declared Sasuke, tossing up his capsule and releasing his starter Pokemon, a Charmander. Naruto ignored the Uchiha taunts, reaching back to try pick one of his weaker Pokemon to battle the spoiled prick. Sasuke anger spiked, noticing he was being ignored once again. "Okay, let's see here," Naruto spoke with his upgraded Pokédex in hand. Charmander, lizard Pokemon. The flame that burns at the tip of its tail is an indication of its emotions. The flame wavers when Charmander is enjoying itself. If the Pokemon becomes enraged, the flame burns fiercely. Level 5 abilities, Blaze, Solar Power. This Charmander is male and registered to Sasuke Uchiha. Charmander was a small, bipedal, dinosaur-like Pokemon. Most of its body is colored orange, while its underbelly is a pale light yellow color. It has a flame that constantly burns on the end of its tail. Naruto nodded, noticed the kaki in the Uchiha's eyes. The blonde shook his head in pity, reaching around his cloak, unclasping a Pokeball from his side belt. "Thor, come out." The blonde held up a blue Pokeball with yellow stripes. That's a quick ball, everyone thought. Before Naruto thrown out his Pokémon onto the field in a flash of light. The Pokémon was mainly yellow with black stripes across its body and one lightning bolt shape on its stomach. Its forearms are large with 3 small claws at the ends and its legs are short and stubby. The most notable feature is the horns on its head, which appear as the 2 prongs on a spark plug. All of the rookies took out their Pokédex to get info. Elekid. Electric Pokémon. Elekid stores electricity in its body. If it touches metal and accidentally discharges all its built-up electricity, this Pokémon begins swinging its arms in circles to recharge itself. Level 25 abilities. Static, Vital Spirit. This Elekid is male and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Wow, an Elekid. I wonder how he got one of those. Elekids are pretty difficult to find out in the wild, Professor Sycamore stated to the others observing the battle with crossed arms, anticipating the battle. He wanting to see if the rumors were true about the blonde's original battling style. You can go first, Sasuke, since you are an unexperienced rookie and all. Naruto nodded over to his challenger. Elekid grinning, doing the "come get it" taunt with its CL. Oz, making both trainer and Pokémon irritated. Don't mock me. Charmander, use Ember now. The flame lizard flexed its claws before sending out a large plume of fire. 4 use Dynamic Punch on the Grow. ND, Elekid punched the ground with enough force to make whole field quake. The flames were blocked by a slab of earth from the field Thor pierced, like a barrier. Now run straight through the smoke. ND use Thunder Punch close up. Naruto telepathically communicated from his mind to the small electric type. Thor nodded in understanding before sprinting through the cloud of ash with his fist crackling with electricity. Everyone was shocked spotting Elekid bursting out of the smoke, his attack ramming straight into the unsuspected fire lizard. Thor's painful punch launched right towards the Pokémon's abdomen and broke through the dust. Charmander was sent flying and landed a good distance away from Elekid. Again, Sasuke was stunned, but he regained his stupor while gritting his teeth when the electric type just stood there calmly awaiting an order. How did he do that without giving a command? The Pinkett shrieked. I don't know, I didn't hear Naruto speak. Kiba sounded confused, trying to think in what just happened. Professor Sycamore smirked to himself, knowing the blonde had such a deep connection with all his Pokémon that he could talk to them without even speaking to them directly. I don't know what kind of trick you pulled before, but that won't save you. Use Metal Claw, Sasuke commanded, although with a little desperation. Charmander barely lifted its shining claws up in T. He air before attacking head-on toward the electric type still standing perfectly still. Move 3 meters to the left, Thor dodge over to the left without really moving from his spot. Metal Claw until you hit it. The flame lizard kept up the pitiful claw strikes, trying to at least land one hit on its foe but failed constantly. The fire type was barely able to keep stand since it was so tired from Elekid's endless dodging. Let it connect then charge in, Naruto called out, making everyone surprised hearing the blonde's command. Sasuke was smirking as if he knew who would win, but Naruto had his eyes narrowed. Look at the dope making a rookie mistake, charging toward an attacking Pokémon head-on. He egged on the blonde more when Charmander's claws were getting closer to Elekid. Shut up, prick. Naruto simply rebuked, as if Sasuke was a whining child who didn't get their way. Said boy gained a tick mark on his forehead for being blatantly ignored again and growled, but that moment of anger alone costed him the match. Finish it with Thunder Punch. Naruto let out his only command needed for the battle. Finally taking pity on the poor fire type, but remained impassive. Thor smirked as it acily dodged the slow-moving attack from the already exhausted fire type. Electricity burst from Thor's fist, flaring wildly as he punched the lizard Pokémon once more, sending it sliding back, landing into Sasuke. Shocking him also from the after effects of the electric attack. Charmander was down for the count. I knew that would be a waste of time, the blonde sighed in boredom. Charmander is unable to battle. Elekid is the winner. Victory goes to Naruto. The lab aide announced, mostly getting gasps and paled faces from the other trainers. Sasuke, especially, was pale and dropped his Pokeball UE to his hand, not registering to his nerves. Such power, many of them thought. Naruto calmed nodded to electric type, still ready for another round, but it turned toward the blonde team, flashing him. A quick salute before Naruto smiled, returning it to its quick ball before whispering a soft congratulation to the small electric type. Right when the blonde was about to walk over to the still wide-eye group, he spotted a tiny blue frog Pokémon leaping down from the roof of the laboratory. It hopped over to the blonde eagerly. The blonde did notice the Froakie was still missing during the introduction. Naruto brushed it off, thinking the bubble frog was already picked up by a random trainer already, but it seems to be from the lab. "Hey, Froakie, what's up? Do you need something?" The blonde bent to one knee, wondering what the small water type wanted. Froakie hopped over to the blonde, tapping its webbed feet onto his Pokeballs. Naruto getting the suggestion on what the bubble frog wanted. "You want to come me, Froakie, is that it?" The blue frog jumped up happily into the blonde's arms. The blonde held the bubble frog with a smile, rubbing the soft frubbles around its neck as it nuzzled the blonde thankfully from the soft scratches. "Oh, you found Froakie, I was wondering where he ran off to." Professor Sycamore smiled, seeing the frog Pokémon so relaxed in the blonde teen arms. "Came up with a great idea. Naruto, why don't you take Froakie with you? I know you would be the perfect trainer for this little guy," the professor suggested. "I was just coming over to ask if it was okay to take I am along with me, still wondering if it was okay and why no one picked Froakie in the first place. To tell you the truth, Froakie has been picked several times from new trainers, but they keep sending him back because of his disobedience and not wanting to get along with any of the trainers that picks him. I think Froakie chose his real trainer for the first time instead of the other way around." He laughed, handing the blonde Froakie's Pokeball to add onto his party. The professor didn't know that the blonde can store past the regular 6 carrying limited thanks to Mewtwo tampering with the below NDS carry limit system, so none of the Pokemon he caught will be transferred. We will work hard and get stronger together." Looked down at his new friend. Froakie beamed, looking up at the blonde. Naruto scratched his head for a second, still holding onto the frog with one arm. Thinking to himself, nodding. "I think I will name you Aim, do you like that name?" The small Pokémon thought about it for a minute before nodding with a smile, liking the new name. The blonde brought out his Pokédex to check Froakie's stats for a minute. Froakie, bubble frog Pokémon. It protects its skin by covering its body in delicate bubbles. Beneath its happy-go-lucky air, it keeps a watchful eye on its surroundings. Level 9 abilities: Torrent, Protean. Attacks: Pound, Lick, Mud Sport, Quick Attack, Toxic Spikes, Water Pulse, Icy Wind. This Froakie is male and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde was surprised to see a couple of egg moves that the frog would have just yet at such a low level, but remembered Froakie did have trainers before from time to time, but he kept coming back to the lab because it didn't want to work with any of its trainers from before. "I glad to have you join me, welcome. To the team Aim." Naruto smiled, returning the bubble frog to his Pokeball as it nodded happily in return. "I can't wait to introduce Aim to the rest of the group," he thought, with a smile, pocketing his new companion to his belt. The blonde walked over Toru and Hikari with a smile on his lips. The Uchiha addressed towards the blonde-haired boy about to leave. Naruto and Toru turned, showing their irritated look on both of them. "How do you have this much power? You should give it to me," he demanded, with a twitch in his eye. "No," Naruto simply said, walking over to Toru as she bent down low, to let the blonde on her back. "See you later, Professor Sycamore. I will update you more on any Mega Evolution sightings I may run into." He calmly bowed respectfully, with Hikari climbing on top of Toru's head to wave goodbye. The blonde was about to get on the green dragon's back but stopped for a second, sliding back off while digging into his backpack, pulling out a clean lavender-colored handkerchief from his pack. The blonde walked over to the shy Hyuga, rooted to her spot when her crush walked over to hand her the small hand cloth. "Thanks for watching my back from when we were kids. I really appreciate it," he said, handing over the handkerchief she gave him long ago before he left the village. She blushed brightly when their fingers grazed against one another, but of course the blow. ND was oblivious to the girl's shy gaze watching him. The blonde teen smirked, remembering Hinata was the only one from their grade to be genuinely nice to him. Naruto swiftly boarded his shiny dragon. In one motion, like he has been doing it for years. "Hey, wait," Sasuke called, but many people did not expect Naruto to really acknowledge the spoiled teen. "What do you want now, Tem?" Growing extremely annoyed. "How did you get so strong?" Toru snarled in annoyance at the black-haired human's insolence. Sasuke nearly pissed his pants from the powerful presences from the she-dragon, but he wouldn't swallow his pride. The blonde patted Toru, calming her down a bit. Sasuke grew resentful each second, seeing every single the blonde's powerful Pokémon. "That is none of your business," he said in a cold voice, making the teen flinched back from his sharp tone. "Damn him. That power should be mine. How does he have this strength?" Sasuke seethed, gripping his knuckles too tightly. "Sasuke, you should learn from this defeat and make better bonds with your Pokémon," Naruto stated, looking down from his dragon at the spoiled child. "Having too many bonds causes one to lose focus, weakening their strongest wish, their greatest desire. It doesn't matter what needs to be sacrificed. In this world, winning is everything. As long as I win in the end, that's all that matters." The emo fired back in rage. "Anyway, here's my point. Trivial setbacks like yours and mine are nothing but common occurrences in everyday life. Getting hung up over pointless crap like that shows that you're a joke. A complete and utter joke," the blonde sneered at the so-called prodigy. "No matter what you're doing, the most essential thing is to not give up. Fail as many times as it takes. Keep trying persistently until you can call yourself average. If you can collect a nice group of average-level skills, that's already above average. You've created your own sort of talent." Everyone was taking the blonde's speech heart, a feeling of guilt making fun of him in the past resurfaced. Even if they tried apologizing to him now, they knew the blonde would not forgive them. "It was nice seeing you guys again, well, some of you anyway. I hope we can catch up someday," Naruto suddenly said with a little smirk. He almost felt like a weight on his chest suddenly lifted a little seeing them again. Hinata fainted face first into the grass, the blood rushing directly to her face. "Well, I overstayed my welcome already, I better be heading off now." He was still confused why the shy girl faints around him all the time, but brushed off the odd behavior, thinking she was hot from the heat of the sun. "It is pretty warm today," he thought to himself, nodding at his clarification. Both female Pokémon sighed, thinking their father is going to leave a lot of girls broken-hearted in his wake. "Good luck on your travels, see ya." Then immediately, both trainer and Pokémon took off into the sky. Naruto was happy to gain a new friend in AIM, knowing the bubble frog will make a great addition to his already powerful team. "I do not know why you didn't destroy that emo with one blow from some of the other Pokémon you already have on your person," a voice conversated with the blonde telepathically. "I was trying to at least give him a chance. I did not want to totally crush his spirit Nova. You can be so ruthless, Samet." "Ims," the blonde chuckled, hearing his best friend's response from inside his mind. "Mewtwo's nickname is Nova. You know you are not the only one that hated him. I know Toru wanted to squish Sasuke lick Caterpie under her claws." He chuckled, rubbing Toru's back as she blushed pink, pouting, getting caught yet again from being overly protective of her master. Naruto never forgot the first time he met Toru all those years ago. The blonde was still a child, traveling with his friend Mewtwo. They had their respective jobs in setting up camp before nightfall. Naruto picked up another dry branch. Ard screeching tires not too far away from where he was. The blonde climbed onto a tree branch to get a better look at what all the commotion was about. Several black jeeps and what looked like a small airship was loading up cargo inside. The blonde looked more closely, seeing different kinds of Pokémon that looked like statues in the cages. "Those look like Pokémon, but they're not moving at all. Are they just Pokémon statues?" the child thought to himself confusedly. "Hey, get back here," one of the bulky thugs said, shouting toward a small bear cub running away in tears across the small grove ahead. The bear cub was covered in short, orange-brown fur. Its muzzle is light tan with a small black nose and black eyes. There is a slightly paler tan crescent marking on its face, and it has round ears. It has 3 claws on its forepaws as well as 2 claws and yellow paw pads on its hind paws. Its tail is short, round, and puffy. Naruto recognized that the Pokémon was a Teddiursa. The blonde knew their species alone was not native to Kalos, so it was surprising to see one so close. "Don't let it get away." "Right." One of the thugs brought out a semi-wrist gun, aiming at the tiny cub and shot an orange beam, hitting the cub in the back, automatically turning the Teddiursa into a stone statue. The blonde gasped, seeing the results of the ray gun. Good work, this whole operation would have been a bust if the cargo ran off. Yeah, we're going to make a killing of these, this job is too easy. I know, but we can't slack off, yet we got to load the rest of these runts onto the ship, he said walking back to one of the jeeps getting in to drive back into the woods. The other grunt picked up the still statue of the ursine Pokémon taking it back into the ship. The young blonde ducked back into the branches trying to think of a plan to save the forest Pokémon. He looked back to the large airship spotting one of the grunts opening up a small compartment on the side of the ship storing more cargo inside the hangar. That could work. The tiny blonde snuck past all the grunts by traveling in the air shafts of the ship hoping to find the room where they're keeping the stolen Pokémon. The blonde G.O.T. lucky overhearing one of the guards mentioning the room down the hall from the boiler room. The young Uzumaki followed the grunt into the back room spotting the rows of Pokémon frozen solid. Howdy. Are these guys treat Pokémon like trophies? They are nothing but scum, the blonde thought in rage as the grunt put the Teddiursa on a circular pedestal and container of glass putting it back onto the shelf with the rest of the other Pokémon before leaving back out the automatic doors. That was the blonde's K. He unhinged the air vent from the side wall, crawling out until he stood upright again. Look at all the shelves of Pokémon that were frozen solid. Well, better get to work. The young child started unfreezing the Pokémon inside the glass containers. The Pokémon were nervous of the blonde in the beginning, but then seeing that the blonde child was helping them escape, they decided to trust him and help. Naruto directed all the Pokémon that they need to escape out of the air vents to the outside, but to be quick and quiet about it. The Pokémon nodded a while Geodude was directing the group to safety inside the air vents in a single file line, so nobody pushed. When Naruto unfroze the last Pokémon, it was the Teddiursa that tried to escape before. Teddiursa was freighted, but the blood patted its furry head in reassurance, saying he was here to help them get out of here. Don't worry Teddiursa. I here to get all of you out of here. Teddiursa nodded but pointed to the back of the shelved room directing the blonde to a different door. I didn't even notice that, the blonde said rushing over the door trying to turn the knob but found it being sealed shut. It's locked, what am I going to do now? Suddenly the whole room started to shake and rumble. The airship was about to take off, he was out of time. Damn, I'm out of time, the frustrated blonde trying to force open the door. The blonde looked back seeing most of the Pokémon already off the ship except Geodude and Teddiursa. Geodude, I need you help please. Geodude used tackle on this door. The rock Pokémon rushed forward, rammed the wooden door down while breaking the hedges of the sides. The blonde rushed forward spotting a single pedestal on a table. A tiny dragon inside the sheet of glass. Is that a Bagon? The shocked blonde ran forward a little shaken seeing a rare Pokémon that are mostly never spotted by people and really hard to find. I have never seen one before, he thought putting his hand on the glass, but shook of his shock to remember what he was supposed to be doing from the get-go. Naruto unfroze the tiny dragon seeing it finally open its eyes. The reptilian Pokémon possesses a large, round snout, triangular eyes, yellow, circular ears similar to reptiles, and a yellow lower jaw with 2 teeth protruding upwards. 3 thick, gray ridges cover the top of its head, and continue downwards to cover its neck as well. There is a triangular patch of yellow on its underside. It has stubby, digit-less arms and short legs with 2 toes on each foot. But what shocked the blonde even more that the tiny Bagon was a green color, not the usual blue scales. Whoa, a shiny Bagon, these are super rare, he thought in his head in excitement before trying to grab the dragon to sit it safely onto the ground, but the dragon glared at the child. It bit down hard into the hand trying to grab it. Ouch! Naruto pulled his hand away in a hurry, rubbing the bleed surface of his palm. Geodude and Teddiursa yelled at the green dragon that the blonde was saving them, not trying to hurt them. The little dragon was surprised at the blonde human got all his friends out safely, but still didn't trust the human. Naruto noticed the Bagon had a higher pitched growl, noting that the shiny dragon was a female. It turned away from him in a huff. Hey, what are you doing here? The grunt from before yelled out. The small group looked back in surprise seeing that their cover has been blown. Naruto had to think fast. Geodude used tackle, Teddiursa used scratch. Both Pokémon rushed forward slamming the grunt across the wall in pain, but enough time of them to rush toward the air vent. Geodude, Teddiursa, you have to get out of here fast. The child shouted. The pair nodded, running down the air vent in a hurry to the outside. Bagon looked on, making sure they got out safely. Okay Bagon, you to go with them too and be careful IK. Now they will not stop at nothing to get a hold of you again. Bagon looked at the blonde child for a second before nodded in acknowledgement about slide into the vent. Naruto was about to follow Bagon, but was pulled back by the neck of his t-shirt roughly. You little brat, this is all your fault, the grunt said, lifting the blonde up high in the air, shaking him. The grunt was so distracted by the blonde he did not notice the green dragon charging toward him in anger. Bagon head-butted the grunt so hard his body crashed into the blank wooden shelves in the room, breaking them in the process. Ow thanks Bagon, the blonde grinned back at the nodding dragon type. What's going on here? One of the goons yelled, coming in with two others with pokeballs. Go Zangoose. Mighty Enna, get this brat, Golbat go. The three Pokemon the poachers called had outnumbered them 3-1. There was no escape. Bagon rushed forward, about to take on all three Pokemon at once. Naruto tried to stop the tiny dragon, hoping he could just escape to safety and leave just him behind. What a stupid weakling, he sneered. Zangoose use Crush Claw, Golbat use Wing Attack, Mighty Enna use Shadow Ball now. All three T-Tacs collided in a mini explosion, causing the Rockhead Pokemon to be knocked back into the wall. The tiny dragon flinched in pain. Bagon glared up at the grown men as they smirked and jeered at him, seeing nothing but cruelty and greed. This is exactly why it couldn't stand humans. The way they look at him and his friends and use them as weapons. The three humans were about to finish him off before the blonde child rushed in, tackling the biggest man of the three in a fury of rage, hitting them with a hollow steel pipe before one of the three men grabbed the hollow pipe right out of the child's hands before punching the kid in the stomach with so much force it sent his tiny body into the floor. The impact made a nasty thud noise behind them. Bagon gasped, looking back in worry for the tiny human trying to help it. Now that annoyance is quiet, let's get back to getting that Bagon. Bagon frowned back to the three poachers, while it wobbled back up onto its feet, but held onto its tiny front paw in pain from the damage before. One of the thugs held out his laser weapon, about to freeze it again. Bagon closed its eyes, ready to be frozen once again, into its stone prison. While everyone was distracted, they didn't notice the blonde getting back into his feet. Naruto hopped onto the thug holding the gun-like weapon, while it shot out, freezing his partner beside him in the process. What the hell? I thought I knocked this little shit out, he said, trying to shake off the persistent blonde holding on tight. The other grunt was trying to help but didn't want to get blasted by weapon itself. I might be just a human, but I'll make sure that I'll protect you with all my might. The blonde shouted, getting the group's attention off Bagon. Go now Bagon, get out of here. Bagon was amazed, seeing the child trying so hard to protect him, so he could escape. The green dragon shook its head, no, not wanting to leave the child alone. You don't have to worry about me, just go, he shouted, but got slammed into the ground once again by the grunt holding the wrist gun. I'm so sick of you. You stupid brat, I'm going to freeze you then throw you overboard down into a riven, so I don't have to see your stupid face again. Bagon cried out its name, getting the group's full attention, while his whole body starts to glow blue and moves its hands in a counterclockwise motion. A blue ball of water turns into a circle. Naruto's eyes widened, seeing the powerful attack forming, and ducked down to get out of Bagon's range. Bagon unleashed a powerful jet of water from its mouth at all three stupefied Pokemon, making them fly back, crushing them into all three of the grunt's trainers. Bagon wobbled from side to side, he barely could stand up. We're not letting you get away now, Mighty Enna, Hyper Beam now. GhtYena opens its mouth and a red-orange ball appears in front of it. It then fires a red-orange beam at the tiny dragon. Naruto dived forward, scooping the tiny dragon into his arms, just barely dodging the strong attack. The explosion caused the airship to wobble and shake more. The attack itself caved a huge hole in the wall of the aircraft into the outside. The blonde cradled the green dragon Pei in his arms before looking down from so high in the air. Before then the smoke soon cleared. I could try making lighting in the tree line, so the branches will break my fall, but we're so high up I am. Ache not make it, the Naruto nervously thought, but then looked down at the exhausted looking Bagon in his arms, barely staying conscious. I have to at least try. For Bagon, the blonde shut his eyes and jumped down from the airship below, holding on tight to Bagon, shielding it as best as he could, so he would take the full impact of the fall. Don't worry, I will protect you, he said, hugging onto the dragon tight while the pair was free falling from the sky. Bagon shut her eyes from the intense air pressure from the fall and from the tears that flew down its cheeks, already knowing the blonde child would not survive the fall, but still selflessly held on tight, trying to save him. Bagon buried her face into the child's roughed-up t-shirt and also held on tight to the blonde, not letting go, no matter what the outcome may be. The blonde was getting closer to the ground, still holding on tight, but soon his body becomes surrounded by a light blue aura, stopping the blonde midair from making any contact with the harsh ground. Blue eyes snapped open, seeing he was floating midair, looking around confused until he spotted his companion floating underneath him with its eyes glowing blue also. Hey, Mewtwo. How's it going? He grinned childishly at the annoyed look on the powerful Pokémon face. Why am I not surprised? He said, rolling its eyes before teleporting them in a safer location than mid-flight. Mewtwo teleported the pair onto an open field where the captured Pokémon were waiting for them. When they arrive onto the scene, all the Pokémon cheered in excitement and happiness, seeing the two finally safe. The blonde smiled, seeing Bagon safe with its friends celebrating, then looked up at the powerful psychic type with its arms crossed, looking at the cheering Pokémon. Hey, Mewtwo, how did you know we were in trouble? The blonde asked. I didn't know, I just knew you did not return to the campsite, so I started searching for your presence, until I stumbled onto this group and they filled me in on what was happening. I had a feeling you were the cause of it. The blonde rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. What you did was utterly irresponsible and incredibly dangerous, Mewtwo said, scolding the child. I know, I just couldn't. The blonde was about to shout back but stopped when Mewtwo shushed him from his angry rant. I know you just wouldn't sit back and watch those humans take these Pokémon. I was just okay, it was stupid but selfless and brave on your part, especially jumping out of an airship. No, you would have died if I wasn't here. The blonde nodded agreement. But thank the psychic legendary for saving them, even though his words were harsh but true. I don't expect anything less from you, by the way. You still are a very intriguing human, Naruto Uzumaki, Mewtwo said with a smile. Naruto just gave him a big grin. The other Pokémon came over to thank Naruto while Bagon nudged the blonde's hurt hand she bit from before. The blonde spotted the guilty look in Bagon's beady eyes and just smiled, rubbing the top of her head in a comforting manner. It's okay, I understand. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. I am just glad all of you are okay, the other Pokémon smiled, nodding. Bagon nuzzled up against the blonde child while licking his wounded hand in apology and from biting him in the first place. It's really okay. I should have known you were scared and wouldn't really trust just anyone from just being kidnapped from your home. I wouldn't really be trustworthy toward anyone either, he said softly with other rubbed the top of the little dragon's head with a smile. The captured Pokémon were getting ready to leave for home thanks to a couple of Kadabras and Abra in the group. The combining the power of the psychic types will be enough to be able to travel back home with no issues. You all keep each other safe, you hear? The blonde smiled at the Pokémon getting ready to leave. The blonde bent down, rubbing Bagon's head once more. Take care of yourself, Bagon. You are really amazing. Bagon had tears in her eyes but shook them off before hopping into the startled Uzumaki's arms. Bagon turned around, talking to the others before they all looked at each other in surprise before smiling, agreeing wholeheartedly with Bagon's choice in staying with the blonde child. Do you want to come with me, Bagon? The blonde said softly while the shiny Bagon blushed pink. While nodding back then the child in acknowledgement. The rockhead Pokémon waved her arms, nodding back to the others. Teddiursa and Geodude smiled, just happy seeing their friend happy. The pairs of P.S. Y Chic type's body glowed white and the other Pokémon waved by, became surrounded in a white light before disappearing back home. Bagon, you and I are going to get stronger and become the ultimate team. The blonde cheered with the tiny dragon nodded in agreement. The blonde teen grinned, petting her smooth scales when she purred happily. They have been together even since he started his travels with Mewtwo. His first Pokémon he had caught. Where are we head now? Nova quested their next destination. To Santaloon City for my first gym badge. The teen replied back, petting Hikari as she held tightly to her father figure trainer. Do you have an idea on who you're going to use? Nova questioned. Nope, Not yet, but I will decide when I make it to the Pokemon Center. No worries, the blonde said. A carefree voice. The blonde could feel Nova was rolling his eyes at the blonde's nonchalant attitude, so just kept silent, going back to sleep. Naruto was excited to finally start earning gym badges and compete in the Kalos League. It was just a small stepping stone toward his goal in being the most powerful trainer in the world. He knew with his team by his side he could do just about anything. Froakie, Aim, Level 9 Male Abilities, Torrent, Protean Pokeball. Attacks, Pound, Lick, Mud Sport, Quick Attack, Water Pulse, Icy Wind. Elekid, Thor, Level 25 Male. Abilities, Static, Vital Spirit, Quick Ball. Attacks, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Dynamic Punch, Thunderbolt, Quick Attack, Signal Beam, Low Kick, Thunder Wave, Shock Wave, Swift, Light Screen, Cross Chop, Brick Break. Metang, Chrome, Level 37 Genderless Abilities, Clear Body, Light Metal Heavy Ball. Attacks, Metal Claw, Confusion, Ice Punch, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, Thunder Punch, Psychic, Bullet Punch, Pursuit, Magnet Rise, Light Screen, Earthquake. Sludge Bomb, Rock Polish, Power Up Punch, Rock Slide, Body Slam. Victini, Hikari, Level 45 Female Abilities, Victory Star Dream Ball. Attacks, Quick Attack, Headbutt, Incinerate, Searing Shot. Zen Headbutt, Flame Charge, Sunny Day, Thunder, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Fire Blast, Energy Ball, Focus Blast, Dazzling Gleam, Will-O-Wisp, Psyshock, Grass Knot, V-Create, Bolt Strike, Blue Flare, Glaciate. Salamence, Toru, Level 72 Female. Abilities, Intimidate, Moxie Friend Ball. Attacks, Ember, Fire Fang, Thunder Fang, Zen Headbutt, Fly, Crunch, Dragon Claw, Hyper Beam, Earthquake, Return, Fire Blast. Steel Wing, Shadow Claw, Dragon Dance, Hydro Pump, Dragon Pulse, Aqua Tail, Iron Tail, Hyper Voice, Draco Meteor, Body Slam, Heat Wave, Toxic, Stone Edge, Protect. Mewtwo, Nova, Level 100 Genderless. In the story, Mewtwo is a male. Abilities, Pressure, Unnerve, Master Ball. Attacks, Psychic, Aura Sphere, Psystrike, Psycho Cut, Recover, Future Sight, Disable, Blizzard, Earthquake, Shadow Ball, Fire Blast. Thunder, Focus Punch, Foul Play, Gravity, Stone Edge, Rest, Solar Beam, Rain Dance, Sunny Day, Sandstorm, Hail, Psyshock, Focus Blast, Water Pulse, Telekinesis, Giga Impact, Poison Jab, Thunder Wave. Toxic, Double Team, Safeguard, Protect, Light Screen, Calm Mind, Hidden Power, Magic Coat. As the young Uzumaki and his team were almost to Santaloon City, but He Blonde decided to stop for a break to let his teammates relax outside their Pokeballs. Naruto told Toru to land by a lush waterfall. From a distance, the waterfall had been like a silent white stream cascading over the rocky outcrops. As they had drawn closer, the noise had increased steadily until they were only a few hundred meters away. They could no longer even shout to one another over the deafening roar of the water. Closer still they drew until they were in the plume of water vapor that hung over the plunge pool. Naruto hopped off Toru before landing on the ground swiftly. He stood in awe. This is the perfect place to set up for lunch, he smiled, patting Toru's muzzle for her fast flying as she purred from the blonde's attention. The blonde patted Hikari as well as she still held on tightly to her father figure as he reached inside his tattered cloak, fishing out all his very assorted Pokeballs, releasing all his companions from their capsules at the same time. In a flash, all his Pokemon stood in different places, looking from one place to another in curiosity. Hey, guys, we are stopping for a quick bite to eat before we make it to Santaloon City for my first gym badge. I just wanted you guys to take a break and relax for a bit. The blonde grinned, looking at every single one of his Pokemon, large and small. I also want to introduce you to our new friend and teammate Aim. He will be joining us during practice battles and swimming drills. I know you guys will help him out with training and getting him adapted to the way we do things, Naruto said to all as his Pokemon A. They all nodded their heads in supporting the young water type. Naruto let his team relax until he finished preparing lunch. Nova and Toru flew off, saying they will return when lunch is ready, and the blonde nodded, watching them fly off before cooking the meals. While finishing unfolding the table, the blonde made a spread of fresh bread sandwiches, mounds of fragrant wild rice, sweet-smelling bal soup, and for the dessert course a blackberry pie. When the young Uzumaki brought all the saucers full of sandwiches over to the entirely clad table with one my hand and a pitcher of fresh lemonade in the other. The blonde smiled, spotting Thor and Hikari playing a friendly game of tag with aim in the lush fields. While the blonde waited for the soup broth to finish boiling, he grinned, holding up his now updated Pokédex to each one of his Pokémon to get updated data from them. The blonde received Thor from an ex-member of Team Snagem. The blonde traveled all the way out past the Hoenn region. The blonde stumbling upon the outside desert of the Ore region. The Ore region was listed as a distant land separated off from Hoenn. The desert of Ore was covered in rolling hills. The wind stirs up the wispy sand, and the sun's never-ending rays beat down on the blonde mercilessly. Salty sweat rolls off his nose, stung his eyes. The blonde's clothing was overwhelmingly hot and sticky. The stiff desert breeze blows sand into his purple eyes and making his blonde hair stiff with salt. The teen's tongue feels as if it's coated in fur and his lips are chapped and dry. The young Uzumaki longed for crystal, cold water. The young teen stumbled upon a single gasoline stand diner located in the southeastern desert in the Ore region. Called the Outskirt Stand. Naruto entered the establishment, idly pulling up his tattered hood to shelter his head from the blistering sun. The blonde hopped onto the stall by the countertop, ordering a tall glass of ice water and a couple of scoops of Moo Moo ice cream on the side. The bartender quickly started on the young teen request. The blonde now had a chance to look around the shop. The stand itself is made out of an old locomotive engine. The machinery of the stand still works, with the steam engine providing electricity to the appliances inside. Inside the engine is a small bar and restaurant that doubles as a convenience store. Weary travelers can rest in a booth and sip refreshing drinks while listening to the radio or jukebox. There is also a television, often showing the news. Ore has no wild Pokémon and has only a few starting to pop up in specific locations, known as Poke Spots. In these circumstances, trainers use Pokémon imported from regions of the Pokémon Nation, primarily Johto and Hoenn. Pokémon battles are, for the most part, double battles. There is no form of a Pokémon League in Ore, but instead, a variety of facilities which offer constant battles. The blonde was enjoying his frozen treat before noticing a customer. T looked like a lab assistant leaving the shop rather quickly, with a couple of shady folks following the frightened researcher closely. The blonde hurriedly paid the bill before leaving a generous tip for the shop owner on the countertop, already tailing the group leaving. When finally making it out to the front of the shop, Naruto overheard them arguing about some stolen Pokémon and that their leader dislikes being deceived by traders. The scientist held up his hands in a pleading manner, hoping to resolve the issue peacefully, but it seems like the other punks did not want to resolve things calmly as they each drew out their Pokeballs, releasing a Golbat and an Ariados. Naruto unclipped a special Pokeball from his waist. It had a green top decorated with 4 red dots slanting toward the center button on both sides of the vertical mid-line on the top half and a gold dot near the top part of the ball's top. A friend ball. Go Toru, use Fire Blast now. The shiny Salamence opened her jaws, releasing a powerful star-shaped stream of fire from its mouth at the two opponents, making them both faint from the overly powerful attack. The grunts quickly returned their fainted Pokémon before retreating from the scene, immensely terrified of the huge dragoness as she roared after the cowards running away. The researcher was named Hortle, and he was so appreciative toward the blonde he gives young teen an Elekid in exchange for helping him from being ambushed by those followers of Team Snagem. He explained to the blonde he used to be a member of Snagem and work for them, but decided to save the Shadow Pokémon instead. Shadow Pokémon are created through an undisclosed process that removes the Pokémon's emotions, turning it into a soulless fighting machine. Hortle asked the blonde to take good care of Elekid, knowing the blonde would be a better trainer for the small electric type than he ever could. Naruto decided to name the electric type Thor. The blonde wanted to check if the electric type would like the nickname when he got a chance to ask it. Naruto thanked Hortle before hopping onto Taurus' back before leaving for Unova once again after receiving an unexpected phone call from Professor Juniper Lab about gathering some Pokédex data. Naruto heard rustling in the treetops. When he looked up, he spotted one of his Pokémon with its arms resting behind its head, sunbathing. This Pokémon was a large, bipedal, reptilian, gecko-like Pokémon that also possessed the traits of dinosaurs. It has powerfully built limbs and muscular legs that allow it to run at high speeds too. Chase after its prey in the jungles where it lives. Its body is mostly vivid green in color, and it has a gracefully rounded belly with a horizontal, pale red stripe extending across it. It has a light red chin and narrowed eyes with small, slit pupils and yellow scleras, with a red rim around the outsides. It has bladed leaves on its wrists, which it uses to slash. It has a long, large dark green, fern-like plant that resembles a tree for a tail and a cluster of small round yellow nutrient-rich seeds growing on its back. It has 3 sharp green claws on both its hands and toes. Comfortable up there, Saber? His grass type muttered out a half-answered replay before dozing off in the treetops. The blonde shook his head, lifting up his Pokédex to record the data he found. Sceptile, Forest P. Okemon. It agilely leaps about the jungle and uses the sharp leaves on its arms to strike its prey. The leaves growing on Sceptile's body are very sharp-edged. This Pokémon is very agile. It leaps all over the branches of trees and jumps on its foe from above or behind. Level 60 abilities, Overgrow, Unburden. This Sceptile is male and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto smiled. Saber was a happy TTLE Trico when he came with him when he first started his voyage in the Sinnoh region, but Saber wasn't his Pokémon to begin with. The south exit of Pastoria City in the Sinnoh region where the Gr. Eat Marsh was first opening up to the public. Naruto was one of the first ones in exploring the great swampland area, making sure everything was safe, and no one was breaking the guidelines, and the Pokémon were living happily since the blonde could communicate with them. Professor Rowan wanted the young Uzumaki to make sure everything was working efficiently. The blonde was about to turn back toward T. He entrance before noticing something crying out in pain. The blonde raced toward the sound. The young child found a severely injured Trico leaned up against a dead log, conscious but weak. The blonde quickly laid the small grass type down onto the lush grass, putting his palms flat facing the frail gecko. The blonde's hands were glowing a light greenish color, healing the Pokémon's wounds at a rapid rate. Trico's eyes snapped up, suddenly feeling better all of a sudden. Trico was surprised seeing the human child healing it with nothing but his hands. "It's okay Trico, I am almost done," the young boy informed the small grass type. When Naruto was done, he reached into his backpack, pulling out a single lum berry and 2 citrus berries to crush together into a lime-colored paste, mixing it with some water. He feeds the wood gecko Pokémon gentle with a spoon until it finished the medicine. Naruto finally asked what happened to it. The wood gecko scowled while clenching its paws in irritation, explaining to the blonde how its trainer abandoned it because it was too weak and wanted to catch a better grass type while he in the marsh. Naruto's eyes sudden change of his deep cerulean eyes turning crimson from just hearing about Trico's previous trainer. Naruto held his head for a second, holding back the overwhelming power surge overcoming his tiny body. "Naruto, you must stay in control, Nova Vo." Ice called out to the blonde from inside his master ball around his neck. "I know, I lost my composure for a second, I apologize." The blonde closed his eyes while inhaling and soon exhaled, making his eyes turn back to its previous blue color. Trico was a little curious by the blonde kid's powers, also how he could understand him. The blonde apologized to the grass type as well. "I can tell you Avenue a lot of spirit, and I couldn't think that a Pokémon like you could have that much. I would be honored if you would join my team as we strive to beat the gym leaders and become the best Pokémon trainer in the whole world," Naruto said as he knelt down and held his hand out. Trico was shocked at first but soon had the small smile, nodding at the blonde's invitation. Trico jumped up on top of He blonde's shoulder to nibble on his blonde as Naruto laughed at the ticklish feeling. "Welcome to the team, pal." He smiled while reaching for a special Pokeball for his new friend. "And I know just the Pokeball for you," Naruto said as he took out a Pokeball with a camouflage design on the outside of the ball. A safari ball. He touched the ball to Trico's head, and Trico was sucked in, and after a single shake, it dinged, indicating Trico was caught. Naruto immediately released the wood gecko from its Pokeball as it crawled up on his shoulder to nibble once again on the blonde's scalp playfully. The blonde laughed, thinking for a minute, then nodded, looking up at the playful Trico. How would you like the nickname Saber, Trico? I just thought it would be an awesome name for you since you will slash all your opponents away, he cheered childishly. Trico thought for a second before nodding in agreement to the name. I can tell you, powerful Saber. And I know that we'll go far, and you'll become a powerful Sceptile. Naruto said with a smile. Saber nodded, still on top of the blonde child's head, while the pair walked back to the front entrance. Saber changed over time when he fully evolved to a Sceptile. Not in a bad way, he just became lazier when he's on a break. Don't misunderstand, Saber was not disobedient or anything, he would instantly come running if his blonde trainer needed him for a battle or training drills, but if the forest Pokémon did anything with his free time, it would be napping in a large tree nearby. That would be on the very top of its list. Speaking of lazy Pokémon, a loud snore interrupted the blonde's blue gaze, caught the form of a giant, green, serpentine creature. It has red-tipped, rudder-like wings on its shoulders and down its body, and similar leaf-patterned fins on the tip of its tail. Yellow ring-like symbols run across the length of Rayquaza's body, and it has an additional yellow ring on top of its head. Rayquaza has 2 limbs with 3 clawed hands, and 2 extended, flat, horn-like structures on its head, with 2 shorter horns along its jawline. It has small, yellow eyes with black pupils now closed from sleep, and 2 discernible fangs in its upper jaw. Serenity was plastered across the wingless dragon's face as he slept. At peace, his features were much softer in sleep, oblivious to the younger Pokémon sliding down his back. You sing the wingless dragon is a human-made slide. The blonde teen chuckled to himself. Rayquaza, sky-high Pokémon, it flies in the ozone layer, way up high in the sky. Until recently, no one had ever seen it. Rayquaza is said to have lived for hundreds of millions of years. Legends remain of how it put to rest the clash between Kyogre and Groudon. Level 72 Abilities, Airlock. This Rayquaza is male and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Rayquaza appeared when he first come across Steven and his research team screaming in fright, when the dragon unexpectedly mega-evolved after it ate the meteorite the scientists were studying. The green dragon believed the humans were invading the sky-high Pokémon's territory. Naruto had the research team quickly escape before unfastening the Master Ball around his neck and unclipping the Cherish Ball from his belt, releasing both Nova and Mars. Steven couldn't believe his eyes were seeing a child no less commanding 2 legendaries in facing off against the wingless dragon. Rayquaza tried to battle back but was swiftly overwhelmed by both the genetic Pokémon and the Paleozoic Pokémon. The battle was problematic, when Rayquaza continually used Dragon Dance and extreme speed, making it nearly impossible to detect where it was going to attack next. Then again, it's to be expected from a legendary Pokémon. The dragon was highly impressed with the blonde child's team. Of course, it never before battled against 2 legendary Pokémon at the same time. Naruto didn't think the wingless dragon would last much longer against Mars and Nova's powerful attacks, but the dragon was doing just that. The Nova and Mars combined their attacks to counter the dragon's superior strength. The duo was finally able to bring it down hard. Nova Mega evolved into its Mega Y-Foe. Moving at Mach speed, firing off ice beams, stone edge and thunderbolts which dealt an enormous amount of damage to its opponent. Mars tucked its body in, moving the same incredible swiftness as Nova, using Electroweb. Tri-attack and Gunk Shot while dodging most of the dragon's attacks. Rayquaza suffered significant damage before it was defeated by a combination attack from the pair. Mars, Nova F. Finish him off with Techno Blast and Psystrike. Naruto commanded. Nova creates a white force field that expands rapidly from its body and firing it at its opponent, which fused with Mars' attack as it fires an ice-like beam of energy from its cannon at the sky-high Pokémon as well. Genesect Chill Drive. The airstrike detonated upon impact, sending Rayquaza straight to the ground, producing an enormous crater as it landed. Defeated with comical swirls in its eyes, Naruto whipped out a black ball, with the yellow forming an H on the top of the ball. Ultra Ball, go! A pale red beam shot forth and sucked in the dragon. The ball shook once, twice, thrice. Ding! Naruto stood quietly as his Pokémon landed behind the blonde. Not at all tired from their match, he walked over to the Ultra Ball and picked it up. A grin graced his lips. Yes. I've caught Rayquaza. He held the Ultra Ball high in the air, already looking back to the two legendaries to congratulate them on their incredible teamwork. But seeing them butting heads, trying to shove each other backward by only using their brute strength. Your aim was off 5 meters, you stupid hairless cat. The Paleozoic point his stinger in Nova's direction. I do not make simple mistakes like you, dung bug, Nova fired back in a cold tone. How many times do I have to tell you, I am not a dung bug? Mars yelled with an angry tick mark beside its head. Oh, really, you sure behave like one with your shitty comebacks, Nova taunted, shrugging his shoulders. Let's go, you and me right now. Mars called out while powering up its back cannon. Very well, I am in the mood for another warm-up, Nova leered, his eyes shining blue, still in his Mega Y form. Naruto speedily ran over to break up the about-to-be death battle between his two strongest Pokémon. A day of rest and his team was back at 100%, he made sure that they stayed within their Pokeballs until he spoke privately with the Honen champion about what he witnessed. Steven ensured the blonde that his secret was safe with him in the custody of legendaries. The champion was so impressed by the blonde's quick intellect and battling style, he offered the blonde a small job, confidential with the associates of the Devon Corporation. The blonde agreed in doing a few side jobs, mostly helping out with specific research and revisions of the main Pokédex data from time to time. The blonde P did not go unnoticed. The company of course deposited the teen a fine paycheck for his services and received complete updates and the latest state-of-the-art Pokémon technology straight from the main factory. Best thing about it is that the items he received are not even released out to the public yet, so he gets first to pick before the new products flew off the shelves, free of charge. Naruto so received Chrome as a special gift from the Honen champion himself. Naruto chuckled at the memory in fighting Rayquaza. That was almost the only time his two powerhouses worked together in taking down an opponent. They made a fantastic team even though they didn't think so. Sora carefully rolled onto his side and looked at the blonde with one eyelid open, shooting the teen a blank look while letting out a lazy yawn. Not caring that the young Pokémon were hoping all over his still body. Naruto rubbed the sky-high Pokémon's snout softly before walking over to the edge of the lake. Sora closed his eyes once more, satisfied, giving a peaceful aura. Naruto suddenly felt a firm shove followed by a deep growl coming from behind him. The blonde looked over beside himself, spotting a massive quadruped. Yellow feline Pokémon with black stripes on its body. Its iris is red in color with a black pupil. It has a purple mane on its back, with white fur around its face. It has a thin, light blue-colored tail with a spark-shaped figure at its tip. It has a black forehead plate, with a light blue muzzle in the shape of an X. It has 3 claws on each of its feet. The blonde chuckled, stroking the poo. RRING saber-toothed feline as it nuzzled against the teen's side, wanting affection. Raikou, thunder Pokémon. The rain clouds it carries let it fire thunderbolts at will. They say that it descended with lightning. Raikou embodies the speed of lightning. The roars of this Pokémon send shock waves shuddering through the air and shake the ground as if lightning bolts had come crashing down. Level 62 abilities, Pressure, Volt, Absorb. This Raikou is male and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto first comes across Zeus when the child was training with Nova nearby. Raikou was lured away by Team Rocket agents. Using a device invented by Professor Sebastian, Raikou freed the electric-type Pokémon trapped from inside the machine the agents were using. With Raikou there, they turn on the device to court themselves from Raikou's electric attacks. As Raikou was beaten, Naruto stepped in to prevent Team Rocket from harming Raikou even further. Naruto released Toru and Tessa to battle against the grunts, making them retreat. After defeating the agents, Raikou was still injured, and when Naruto offered to help him, Raikou fired some electricity at him, but the blonde easy blocked the electricity with his powerful aura, blocking any attacks. Nova released himself from his Pokeball, protecting Naruto from any more electrical blasts. Raikou was surprised by the sudden encounter and meeting another legendary. Raikou felt the blonde's inner power and allowed Naruto to help him recover. Raikou was treated in a more secluded part of the forest away from civilization where he would recover faster. Naruto continued to heal the Thunder Pokémon with his healing aura. After Raikou was fully healthy, he slipped away from the group and went after Team Rocket again. The device once again proved to be a challenge for Raikou. With Raikou once again weakened by the machine, The Team Rocket agents used a capture bubble to absorb his electricity, but Toru, Saber, and Cage's attacks destroy it. However, T.H.'s didn't stop Attila from taking Raiko as he successfully placed him in the cargo hold of the mecha. Unbeknownst to the grunts, Naruto was caught too. The blonde was able to open the door of the cargo hold and Raiko managed to jump out before the door closed. Far from the crystal's activation, Raiko attacked it, which caused destruction from the machine's energy waves. Despite the machine being rendered useless, Team Rocket had a trick up their sleeve. With the control panel destroyed, the crystal became twice as powerful since it is running on auto-destruct. The crystal grabbed Raiko and trapped him inside a bubble. The group does their best with destroying the bubble as it proved to be a challenge for them unlike last time. Toru and Saber volunteered to drain the energy from the force field. Despite the grunts stopping them from freeing Raiko, Raiko broke out in the nick of time to protect the group from the grunts' Pokemon's attacks. Raiko then destroyed the contraption for good and ran off into the forest. Naruto had Mewtwo hold down the Team Rocket agents while he called Officer Jenny and Officer Enko, informing Pokemon poachers were stealing Pokemon. The police found the criminals tied up against a tree wrapped with a sturdy rope. The officers found all the evidence the police needed to put the grunts in jail but couldn't detect who made the call though. After the police department interrogated the grunts, but then again none of them could remember who tied them up or the person that stopped their plans from capturing the Thunder Pokemon in the first place. Naruto soon found the Thunder Pokemon after the police were far enough gone. The blonde one was again healing him without a second thought. Naruto conversated with the massive electric saber-toothed cat like He was having a cup of coffee with an old friend. Raiko observed blonde child calmly working on his previous injuries. Although the cat still shot glances at Nova leaning against a tree, from time to time while the Naruto offered a few strews berries and lum berries of any status issues. Raiko took the berries gently out of the blonde's small hands, chewing on the sweet fruits. When the berries were taking effect, the blonde packed up the rest of his supplies and gear, getting up ready to wave goodbye to the Thunder Pokemon, but stopped when the electric cat as well stood up the same time as the blonde. The Thunder Cat was a few inches taller than the human child when standing face to face. Raiko brushed up against the blonde child as he allowed Naruto to stroke him as he purred. "How are you feeling?" Red Eyes slid over to the blonde child as he finished petting him. "I don't think Team Rocket will come back anytime soon. Nova erased all their memories and everything dealing with their Shem. So you're safe now." Saber-toothed cat dipped his head down momentarily, letting out a soft growling in gratitude. Naruto's grin widened. "I'm glad to see that you are well again, so what will you do now, Raiko? Are you going to go back home?" Raiko looked at him, and then got up and trotted over to Naruto's side, sniffing at the Pokeballs. Naruto, not understanding why, looked down as well. "What? These are my Pokeballs. They're all full C." Raiko's eyes narrowed at the information, and he nudged Naruto's side with his nose. The Thunder Pokemon sounded insistent and Naruto couldn't figure it out. "What?" he asked. Hearing Nova scoff, Raiko sniffed at his Pokeballs again, and then nudged him. Naruto processed this and ran it over in his mind a few times before his eyes snapped wide open. Slowly, he moved his pack off his back and to his side, the Raiko watching his every move. Naruto dug deep into his backpack and pulled out a Pokeball with yellow half circles on the sides of both the top and bottom halves, with the top half being primarily red and carrying a lightning bolt yellow mark on the very top. A fast ball. Raiko's eyes widened and he perked up. Naruto held the Pokeball up. "Raiko, do you want?" Raiko didn't even let him finish, because he raised up onto his clawed paw forward, touching the button in the middle and letting the white light swallow him up. It locked immediately without a struggle. Naruto just gave his hand a stupefied look. "I guess I caught Raiko. I am assuming you earned Raiko's respect in a way." The blonde looked over to his first Pokemon with a confused face. "Raiko could sense your true emotions and felt content in being in your company. Especially the way you selflessly protected him from being captured as well as healed I am without asking for anything in return. A sense of justice, as you humans call it." The blonde nodded, looking back down to the fast ball in his hand, nodding to himself. "I was going to call him Zeus, what do you think? Raiko never really got a chance for me actually to tell him, you know. The god of thunder." I think that is a fitting name for someone with his aptitudes. Mewtwo nodded as the blonde D once again grinned in catching a new friend. After the blonde finished petting the large feline, Zeus padded over to the shade trees, lick his paws before settling down for a quick catnap while waiting for Naruto finished preparing lunch. The young shook his head at Zeus' cat-like antics. The teen turned back to finish lunch but unexpectedly felt a sudden chill, crawling up his spine he felt on a regular basis. Naruto heaves a sigh then grinned looking toward his own shadow connected to the shade part beneath the trees he stood under. Come out Cage, you can't hide from me this time, I felt you. Our presence entering my body, the teen smirked feeling the once chilling presence leaving his body. Turning around with his Pokédex still in hand. A shadow-like, round-bodied Pokémon with two large, inted ears and short spikes lining its back. Its two red eyes and a toothy, sinister smile. It has claws on its hands. Cage floated above the blonde teen, snickering in being found out. Naruto first me. T-Cage when he voyaged to the Kanto region in Lavender Town. Gengar. Shadow Pokémon. Should you feel attacked by a sudden chill, it is evidence of an approaching Gengar. It apparently wishes for a traveling companion. Since it was once human itself, it tries to create one by taking the lives of other humans. Level 56 Abilities. Cursed Body, Levitate. This Gengar is male and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. When visiting Lavender Town's volunteer Pokémon house to talk to Mr. Fuji about a small task Professor Oak wanted to check out, but instead met one of its volunteers, Reina. Reina told Naruto Team Rocket was near town poaching the ghost-type Pokémon still living inside the tower, and how a newborn Cubone had lost its mother to them, and Team Rocket had then taken over the Pokémon Tower as their headquarters and kidnapped the owner of the Pokémon house, Mr. Fuji. Naruto decided to take Team Rocket on, so he went to the overtaken Pokémon Tower, where he encountered a sinister Gengar. Gengar was hostile at first, thinking the blonde child was a part of Team Rocket trying to tear down the tower. Naruto tried explaining the situation to the shadow Pokémon, but the ghost type did not listen as it hurled never-ending shadow balls at the child. Naruto called out Saber the young Uzumaki's Grovyle to fighting off the threat, but then Team Rocket suddenly appeared from the upper floor Ying to capture both Gengar and the blonde's Pokémon but was stopped by an eerie howl from an unidentified presence. A ghostly figure formed, which was then revealed to be Cubone's deceased mother, Marowak. Reina appeared with Cubone, who had a tender reunion with its mother. Team Rocket tried once again to attack the group but was overpowered in battle by both Gengar and Saber, so they retreated. Naruto advanced to the tower's highest floor, where he found a tied-up Mr. Fuji. Naruto returned to the Pokémon house, where Mr. Fuji gave the young blonde a Poké Flute and two unfamiliar stones. Naruto soon returned to the Pokémon Tower to Gengar and the ghost-type Pokémon carrying a big batch of citrus berries and Oran berries as an apology in getting the ghost poison type caught up in all the drama. Naruto bowed to ghost type showing that his apology was genuine. Nonetheless, the ghostly Gengar just laughed as it jumped through the air and grabbed onto the startled blonde. Naruto froze when Gengar licked him across the face with a slimy tongue. Naruto laughed while whipping off the rest of the ghost's drool. The ghost Pokémon insisted the blonde should spend the night within the Pokémon Tower. The small child agreed as well, making sure all the Team Rocket grunts were gone. Gengar seemed to grow fond for the blonde child as they sat around a glowing lantern while they all chatted with the child snuggled up in his sleeping bag. All the Pokémon were fascinated that the blonde could communicate with them, they were delighted to talk to him. Gengar grew curious when Naruto stated he loved playing pranks too and shared a few of his successful pranks with the ghost types before the child left his old village, making the shadow Pokémon laugh out in glee from the young child funny stories. Shadow Pokémon called a few of the Barnets and Duskulls living in the tower over to attempt to put on a comedy act for the blonde by acting as a pair of performers. Naruto did enjoy the small comedy act while clapping in the end as the ghost types bowed from the praise. Gengar trailed the blonde the next day, telling him he wanted to tag along with Naruto throughout his journey, also eager to do a few pranks along the way. Giving him the nickname Cage, the blonde caught him within a dusk ball. The blonde chuckled as the ghost poison type flew off into the treetops to probably mess with Saber until lunch was ready. The teen smiled, returning to work and finishing up the large meal for his team. The blonde teen wiped the sweat from his brow after organizing all the dishes he was serving and was about to set the table. The teen hauled up a large stack of tableware in his hands before looking over to the shaded tree line, spotting a bulky fox-like Pokémon covered mainly in dark grayish fur. Wah! Elking toward the blonde from the dimness of the shaded trees on its hind legs. It has a pointed muzzle, red lining around its eyes and mouth, teal eyes, a fluffy black ruff of fur around its neck, and a long, voluminous crimson-red spiky mane with gray tips. A teal-colored band encircles the bottom part, was mane like a ponytail. It has 3 sharp red claws on both its hands and feet. Hey, Menma, is the illusion barrier up okay? The black-furred fox-like nodded, approaching closer to cuddle the blonde a bit, making him chuckle. The illusion fox took the hefty tableware from the blonde teen arms, helping him pass out the plates and utensils on top of the clothed table. Zoroark, illusion fox Pokémon. Bonds between these Pokémon are very strong. It protects the safety of its pack by tricking its opponents. It doesn't just transform itself, it also has the power to make hundreds of people see its illusions. Level 47 Abilities, Illusion. This Zoroark is female and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Menma made sure to put up a powerful illusion every time the whole group came out to relax in hiding them from unfriendly individuals close by. Naruto always saw Menma as the overprotective big sister of the group, making sure everyone was safe and taken care of. Naruto was passing through the Losslorn forest but got lost on the way. Before I even arrived in this place, that backpacker dude at the entrance said there were signs located all over the place leading individuals out of the forest, and they were easy to spot from a respectable distance, but since I've been in here I have not even noticed any signs whatsoever, and I feel like I have been walking for miles. The blonde shouted in a rant before sighing in defeat, still trying to find an exit out of this maze. The blonde trended deeper into the forestry, completely lost before stumbling upon an uninhibited trailer in the middle of the forest and grew curious. The blonde approached the trailer, noticing a woman emerging from the trailer while displaying a stern expression. The blonde held up his map, trying to ask for directions to the silent woman, hoping she could assist him in directing him to the exit. The woman suddenly started emanating a bright crimson aura around her. Naruto, get away from her now, Nova demanded before the woman let out a screeching growl before attacking the blonde head-on. Naruto hopped back speedily, executing a couple of backflips out of the way from the mysterious lady's frontal assault. The mysterious woman started to change in front of the blonde's very eyes. Naruto was unexpectedly facing a snarling, shiny Entei aggressively clawing the ground. Zeus, I choose you. Naruto tossed out his fast ball, freeing the thunder Pokémon. Zeus released an earth-shattering roar, standing in front of the blonde child protectively ready to fight. The shiny Entei stood a respectable distance away from the duo, waiting for them to make the first move. Naruto quickly ran through strategies in his head. He knew that the wild Entei was slower compared to Zeus. By looking at the way it was waiting for them to make the first move, Zeus would be best to try countering its speed. Okay Zeus, I don't know what it will throw at us, so don't let your guard down, Naruto ordered, and the saber-toothed cat nodded in understanding. Right, let's do this. Sprint ahead by zigzagging towards him. Zeus didn't hesitate and followed orders. Then, just as expected, the shiny Entei momentarily vanished from view before reappearing directly above the thunder Pokémon. Use Sandstorm to blind him. It worked. Just before Entei's claws came down on Zeus' head, the electric cat stomped down onto the ground, causing a giant twister of sand to spread out all over the field, causing Entei to be hit by the strong winds. Entei's attack was knocking him off course. The fire type got its bearing together before fired a scorching hot flamethrower. Its mouth flicked with flames before it unleashed the flamethrower directly into Zeus. The flames were so intense it completely blew away the sandstorm, the high temperature utterly canceling off the dust tornado. Dodge it Zeus. He jumps back as of the command. Entei also bone CED back to avoid any further damage from his opponent, but Naruto was already planning ahead. Use bulldoze now, the blonde commanded, and instantly Zeus stomps down on the ground, creating a shock wave onto the ground. The shock wave then crashes directly into Entei, causing it to cry out in pain. After the wild Entei received a fair amount of damage, a shimmer of black flames enclosed over the legendary fire type. Before the illusion dispersed, revealing a snarling Zoroark in its place. The dark type tried jumping back to avoid further damage, but then again Naruto was already cooking up a strategy. Rock Smash, Zeus. The said attack shined white before its claws smashed directly into the dark-type Pokémon, doing double the damage. The lone attack had enough force to send the illusion fox skidding back, flinching from the pain. Now use Calm Mind before it attacks another time. Naruto shouted, getting on the defensive now that Zoroark was out of range. Zeus stood ready, surrounding him. Elf in a colorful barrier, increasing its power, waiting for an incoming attack, which finally came in the form of a speedy shadow claw swinging horizontally, trying to hit the saber-toothed feline. Counter it with Iron Tail. Both attacks collided, making small sparks fly off in different directions. Equally, both Pokémon held their ground, with Zeus' bright white tail smashing against Zoroark's black aura claws. Now jump over his claws and then use Wild Charge. The Thunder feline did as the child instructed. Zeus cancelled his attack before soared straight over the dark type's limbs, completely adding some air before its body becomes surrounded by yellow electricity, before tackling the fox, leaving a massive explosion in its wake. Zoroark tumbled out of the haze of smoke onto its back from the blow, obviously dazed. When the fox tried getting on its feet, the blonde noted small sparks of electricity coming off Zoroark's thick pelt, its form more sluggish. Noticing the dark type was now realized from Zeus' previous attack, now's my chance. Finish this, by using Aura Sphere. Naruto ordered the Thunder Pokémon follow through. Zeus opens his jaws, forming a bright, light blue orb of energy in front of it. It then fires the orb at the sneering fox. As soon as Zoroark got back onto one knee, the attack hit instantly, finally knock it out of the battle, Zoroark blacking out. The blonde Reedley pulled out a special Pokeball that was entirely black with a gold band around the middle as well as a gold button, and carries rings of red on both halves, which themselves are flanked by rings of gold. A luxury ball. Naruto tossed the luxury ball in the direction of the down dark type. It was momentarily surrounded by a light until it was sucked into the ball. Naruto waited anxiously as the black ball shook once, twice. A third time, then dinged. The blonde beamed rubbed the saber-toothed feline's head as it purred in pleasure from the blonde's gentle strokes before returning him to his Pokeball. Before thanking him from a job well done. When the blonde picked up the luxury ball, the true expanse of the Lostlorn forest was suddenly revealed, and the same backpacker from the entrance reaped. Paradin became surprised when Naruto explained his lengthy story and his battle, of course not informing the backpacker about him having a legendary himself, that the suspicious woman was really a Zoroark in disguise, who was only protecting her home by deceiving both people and Pokémon using illusions. He then states that Zoroark probably reacted strongly to the blonde somehow. Naruto asked if it was okay to call her Menma. She did nothing to voice her objection to the nickname, so the blonde kept it. Menma didn't trust Naruto in the beginning but quickly grown fond of the young child later on, when he showed her kindness and genuine care if she felt anxious. If you want to go, Menma, you're more than welcome to. It's your choice, and if you want to leave, I will more than understand. Naruto said as Zoroark looked at the blonde in astonishment from his kind words. Menma's eyes then glowed blue as it read Naruto's emotions, and Naruto was truthful. Menma then shook her head no, deciding to stay. From that point on she chose to trust the blonde child and stay by his side. Naruto left Menma to prep the table until he licked his lips, trying to wet his mouth. The blonde eyed up to his water bottle, picking it up, seeing nothing but the very bottom. The teen sighed as if it would have magically filled itself while he wasn't paying attention. A slight breeze blew past, making him shield his gaze. The object landed softly by the lakeside, looking at its reflection. The Pokémon was a bipedal, insectoid Pokémon with a metal body and a saucer-shaped head. It is primarily red with several gray markings. It has two large purple eyes and a small white part that could be either its mouth or a vent. It has thin arms with overlapping segments. Each arm ends with a single, pointed claw. There is a gray circle on each shoulder, and a gray band around its abdomen. Its segmented legs each end with a large, upward curving claw. The powerful cannon on its back and other enhancements were added as part of the bizarre modifications made to it by Team Plasma. Genesect. Paleozoic Pokémon. This Pokémon existed 300 million years ago. It was feared as the strongest of hunters. Team Plasma altered it and attached a cannon to its back. Level 89 abilities. Download. This Genesect is male and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde gripped his knuckles in rage, remembering the information he sent to Professor Juniper about the Paleozoic Pokémon because it was forcefully experimented on by the crazed organization of Team Plasma. Remember when he first met the ancient Pokémon? Naruto was Kaie in for a brief meeting with the Unova region's main professor, Rhea Juniper, wanting help with a specific project she was researching on and wanted the young blonde's participation in her latest development. Needing specific research data, she had Naruto fly out to New Torque City to the main library to investigate the ancient text relating to the legendary Pokémon Reshiram and Zekrom. While Naruto checked out the books needed for the female professor, he was soon pushed to the side from a mob of terrified civilians running away in the opposite direction. The blonde soon found out there was a group of Genesect that went on a rampage throughout the city while attempting to search for their ancient habitat, thus bringing them into conflict with Nova. Naruto called out Nova to battle with the leader of the pack, a red Genesect. The two powerhouses battled in the upper atmosphere, leaving the planet for a brief moment before making a huge crater in the middle of the city's square. Whatever November, a disgust with the red Genesect made the Paleozoic Pokémon see things through a different light. The bug steel type wished to travel alongside the blonde and his team, determined to get stronger to battle Nova on an even playing field. The blonde nodded wholeheartedly, catching the shiny Genesect in a cherish ball. He decides to nickname him Mars, like the Crimson Planet. Mars had a few hiccups in holding back its full strength during practice battles. Soon later he got into the swing of things when Naruto gave him a stern talking to when helping their teammates get strong together as a family, not doing things alone. Mars and Nova butted heads every chance they got. Their relationship reminded the blonde of Ino and Sakura trivial quarrels. I need to fill up my water bottle later when I get Chansa thought, putting down his empty container by his things before walking over to the vast body of water, bending down, scooping a good handful of clear liquid, glopping down a good amount, quenching his thirst. An enormous sleuth surrounded the young teen's form from overlooking the lake. Gaining the teen's attention, he noticed a dragon-like Pokémon that is serpentine in shape and covered in blue and yellow scales. It has white fins on top of its body and it has a tan underbelly. It has fins on the side of its face and a large, blue crest on its forehead. Like Magikarp, it has whiskers. The large Pokémon roared heatedly while facing the heavens. Naruto reared back, shielding his eyes while standing right next to the massive water snake with no trouble at all from its monstrous roar. "Hey, Tessa, how's the water feel, girl?" Naruto asked as the massive serpentine bent down, giving the teen a messy lick that lifted him off the ground, with an eye smile. Naruto wiped most of the drool off him and chuckled at his oversized Gyarados splash the blonde a bit. Once Tessa had evolved, her size as a Magikarp had made her even bigger as a Gyarados. Naruto laughed, knowing that Gyarados meant to be fearsome Pokémon, yet Tessa seemed as playful as Victini at times. He stroked Tessa's scales, causing her to turn her head to him. She was still seemingly happy. The blonde pulled out a Bellu berries from his side pouch, tossing a few to Tessa, who caught them eagerly while he munched on the remaining few while hold up his Pokédex. Gyarados, atrocious Pokémon. A tale is told of a town that angered Gyarados. Before the sun rose the next day, flames utterly consumed the town, leaving not a trace behind. Some people swear that any place Gyarados appears is fated for destruction. Level 52 abilities, Intimidate, Moxie. This Gyarados is female and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. Tessa first appeared as an overly large Magikarp that Naruto fished exclusively from the Lake of Rage of the Johto region, where the champion Lance caught the red-colored Gyarados that was on a rampage not that long ago. Tessa was so massive she snapped the blonde's rod when he tried pulling her up out of the water. She swam away, taking the blonde's bait with her. The blonde still repeatedly fished until he found her again, but wished he caught her on better circumstances. The Magikarp the child was trying to catch before unexpectedly evolved into a Gyarados when defeating some Team Rocket grunts that were still snooping around Route 43. She blasted the grunts away with a powerful hydro pump. The giant water serpent quickly befriended the blonde after seeing the blonde human was trying to protect her former home from the unwanted guests. Afterward, she challenged Naruto to a battle wanting to test to see if the young child would be a suitable alpha. Naruto called out Kage his Gengar in battling with the mighty flying water type. While the blonde came out the victor, he decided to name her Tessa. Tessa wholeheartedly agreed to the name and to travel alongside the blonde wherever he went. She allowed Naruto to catch her inside a lure ball without as much as a fuss. When Naruto was about to call over his team to the teen, noticed Hikari glided over, snatching an extra blackberry from one of the spare leftover bowls. "Papa, is lunch ready yet? I'm really hungry," Hikari questioned, still munching on the berry. "We just finished, Hikari," the petite fire type squealed in delight from the blonde's words. The blonde chuckled, advising her to let everyone know lunch was ready to be served. She cheered happily once again before swallowing the rest of the sweet fruit whole, already hovering off happily to inform everyone lunch was ready. Victini was the cause of countless wars long ago because thousands of people wanted victory. The young teen traveled to the westernmost pier of the Castelia city harbor, to Liberty Pier. The cheerful captain of the boat docked here recognized the blonde's Liberty Pass and volunteered to take the teen to Liberty Garden himself. The ocean breeze whispered in his ear, placing salty kisses on his whiskered cheeks and tousling his long blonde locks. "On days like this T's peaceful, the draft blowing through the sails of the boat, flutters its flags and pushes along the blue waves. I beamed, feeling the small waves pushing against the vessel, sending white spray high in the air." The ocean breeze on his chest took him right back to his youthful years on the road with Nova. The salty taste of the air on his tongue and the scent of the sea in his nostrils while closing his eyes to the lullaby of the ocean, breathing in its poignant salty breath. Just listening to the squawking of wingulls flapping their wings rapidly along the shoreline had him feel content, whole, happy. Naruto looked across the ocean as he took in the landmass of the famous Liberty Gardens, since it was not exactly opened up to the community yet. It was an island located in the southeast area of the Unova region, which requires a Liberty Pass. Naruto received the item as a thank you gift from the female professor from helping her out with her latest project, as well as the Genesect incident too. According to Professor Juniper, the island was bought by an extremely rich man. She believes he was trying to protect the mythical Pokemon Victini. The blonde hoped to at least get a photograph of this mysterious Pokemon. When the blonde undocked the boat, he made his way toward the largest tower on the island. When the teen treaded closer to the tower, he noticed there are two Team Plasma grunts outside of the tower. The grunt quested why the blonde was there before calling out their Pokemon to attack the teen. The grunts sent out a Patrat and a Sandile. "Menma, let's go." As the black Bip, Edel Fox came out with a deep howl, making the smaller Pokemon and the grunts clutch each one another in fright. When the Menma shot them a feral smirk. "Use hyper voice now." The wail from Menma was enough to take down both Pokemon in one hit, causing them to faint. Both Team Plasma grunts retreated after returning their downed Pokemon. Before heading into the tower, Naruto phoned Professor Juniper about Team Plasma infiltrating the island. Professor Juniper said she would be there shortly with the police. There were Team Plasma grunts all over the tower trying to capture the blonde, but their battle experience wasn't anything special. Soon after, the blonde finished them off quickly in no time. While the team traveled to the top, he interrogated one of the grunts in why the organization was trespassing on this island. The minor grunt informed the team that Team Plasma was hoping to capture Victini to use in their future schemes. Naruto knocked all the grunts out with a swift chop to the back of their necks before tying them up outside for the police to get to them quicker. Naruto finally reaches the lighthouse's hidden room at the top, where it said that Victini has been living for a long time. There was one more Team Plasma grunt there with a watchog, nothing the blonde couldn't handle. Naruto blasted the normal type and the grunt away with a direct hit with Menma's Focus Blast. Finally, when you have defeated the last grunt, in tying him up with the rest of the group, the blonde approached Victini to see the poor thing hiding under its blankets shaking in fear. Naruto returns Menma before following the sound of the soft sobs, waiting patiently until the tiny fire type calmed down. Her room was like a wonderland for comic-driven recluses. The walls were a deep red that pulsed in the light, sprinkled with various posters, mostly of strange Japanese cartoon shows. I doubted she could read whatever was written on the poster. Her comforter was pulled over her bed, even though she hadn't cleaned it. The result was lumps of varying sizes and shapes, and the comforter was weighed down by different Pokémon plushies. A desk sat in one corner, littered with wadded-up pieces of paper and colored pens. A few shelves were pushed against the walls and filled with picture books. Some books sat on the floor in front of the shelves. Naruto sat on the hardwood floor right next to her and followed her gaze to the setting sun, saying nothing. She wiped her wet nose with her paws and glanced his way. "Who are you? Are you here to capture me too?" The blonde shook his head, no telling her he was just there to talk. Then Victini's stomach growled as Naruto noticed the tiny fire rabbit looked hungry. Naruto smiled and reached into one of his bags and took out a pouch full of nanab berry-flavored poffins. "Here, you look hungry," Naruto said as he held them out, but the victory Pokémon it backed up a bit, wary of Naruto. Naruto understood and put them on the comfier of the bed and moved to the side. Victini then slowly moved forward and looked at the pink-colored poffins and then at Naruto. It then took one of the poffins with its paw and bit down. "This is yummy," Victini said happily as she munched the poffin with gusto. It then moved on to the next poffin and then the others. Naruto smiled as he took out 2 more poffins and a bottle of Momo milk he got from a stand back in Castelia City. He took the cap off the bottle and left it there as Victini quickly ate the other poffins and drank the Momo milk rapidly. Victini finished the milk and put the bottle down. "Thank you," she said as it let out a sigh of satisfaction, causing Naruto to smile. "Glad you're feeling better. You looked like you hadn't eaten in a while," Naruto said as he broke off a part of his APPLE and held it out to the mythical Pokémon. "Go ahead." Victini got from out under the blankets and sat down on the side of the bedspread and ate the apple. "Besides, it's nice to eat with some company." "You're right. It is," Victini agreed as it ate a chunk of the apple. "So, you want to tell me the complete story and why you're up here sealed away from everything in this tower like an imprisoned princess?" Naruto questioned, pleased in seeing Victini's blushing face. Victini enlightened to the blonde about how a rich person bought Liberty Garden Island a long time ago and kept Victini in the tallest tower to protect it from greedy trainers who wanted its power. What an idiot. What kind of person traps Pokémon away without even return to see if they are okay? Besides, living here alone with anyone to guide them. None of this is your fault. If anything, it was that wealthy person's fault for not letting you travel the world the way you want to. It seems like whoever that person did not give you much of choice in the matter. Did they? Naruto said as Victini shook its head. No, enjoyed the kind words the blonde spoke. Thank you, blonde-haired human, you are kind. Victini shyly smiles up at the teen. Don't mention it. I hate people who won't consider the Pokemon's feelings. It just gives humans a bad name. After that, Naruto released Nova, Mars, Menma, Saber, Thor and Cage having a small party of sorts. The small gathering seemed to get Victini more relaxing and more social around other Pokemon and starting up a decent conversation. Cage cracked a couple of jokes, getting the Fire Bunny to giggle a bit by making her calmer. Until it was time to head back to the mainland and get some sleep. Naruto stretched before returned his all Pokemon. When the blonde stood up and looked at Victini shooting her big grin. Victini. Today was a fun day. It was nice to meet you. Naruto said with a smile. I had lots of fun too. Victini said with a small smile but was unhappy. Think the gentle blonde teen her new friends would be gone, leaving her alone once again. Naruto noticed the victory Pokemon floppy ears droop down unhappy. Victini, do you like to come along with me? Really, you want me to come with you? I am not strong, and what if I mess something up? Naruto held her gaze. I don't care about much power you possess, I will love you just the way you are. I love they all my other Pokemon equally and that will never change. You are just like the rest of us, you make mistakes. You will continue to make them too, as do I. But what's so special about you is that you own them. Feel the hurt and force the pain to make you better. May I call you Papa? I always wanted a daddy for myself. She asked, tearing up, fearful of being rejected. You may call me whatever you like. But of course I'll be your papa. And you will be my little princess. I am going to take good care of you. Hikari, my little light. He stroked the victory Pokemon, softly brushed her warm fur gently. Whereas the victory Pokémon cried tears of joy in finally having a family of her own. The teardrops landed on top of the bedspread and together with her tears shaped together into a single Pokeball. But what made this capsule different was the pink and dark pink patterns on top of the capsule and a dark purple and white design on the bottom half of the capsule. A dream ball. Naruto here. D of these special Pokeballs but never seen one up close before. Naruto picked up the rosy-colored capsule smiling while lightly tapping Victini's over the head consuming her in a bright light capturing her on the first shake of the pink ball. Victini, victory Pokémon. When it shares the infinite energy it creates, that being's entire body will be overflowing with power. This Pokémon brings victory. It is said that trainers with Victini always win, regardless of the type of encounter. Level 15 Abilities, Victory Star. This Victini is female and registered to Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde instant L.Y. freed Hikari from her ball as she sobbed trying to whip away her trickle of tears as she placed her paw into Naruto's hand. The mythical Pokémon gave it a gentle squeeze before gliding over by the bee. Lawn to nestle deeply into the teen's shoulder and together they walked out of the tower. Naruto is certainly pleased by how far Hikari changed since parting from the secluded island of Unova. Since Hen Hikari works hard during training sessions help out her teammates also to make her father figure proud of her. She only speaks when around his Pokémon and alone with no one around to see, she only re-emerges from being invisible when she feels safe or if she's close to the blonde Uzumaki, she's still distrustful of some people. Food's ready. Naruto called as he and Menma started pouring equal portions into everyone's bowls as well splitting up pieces of the berry dessert. Dig in, we have plenty. Just before he could enjoy the meal, he heard the familiar chime of his X-transceiver from his backpack. I wonder who that is. Naruto spoke aloud, preparing to get up and fetch the pack. When it glowed blue and floated up to him he grabbed it and smiled at Mewtwo still eating. Thanks Nova. He just nodded silently before scooping up another spoonful of warm soup. Suck up, Mars muttered, before continuing his meal. Nova used his telekinesis in splashing the red bug steel in its face. Mars whipped the warm broth of his face before cleanly slicing through Nova's glass of lemonade like butter when the genetic Pokémon tried tasting the cold drink. Both of them glared hatefully at each other about to get up out their seats to attack one another. The blonde swiftly grabbed both Pokémon by the shoulders forcing them to sit down. Cut it out right now, you two. Naruto said before bopped the two upside their heads, silencing their petty quarrel. Do not make me separate you guys, the blonde added as he noticed the two legendaries shooting each other dirty looks before quickly turning back to their bowls. Innocently eating. Naruto then grabbed his X-transceiver out of his bag and put on his end of the call. Immediately a tall, slender young lady with long, wavy, creamy blonde hair and gray eyes. Black wearing all black popping up. Yo, Cynthia. Naruto greeted with a smile. How are you? I am doing well Naruto, Cynthia smiled. Where are you now, Cynthia? The teen questioned curiously. I'm visiting an old friend in Undella Town. It's a large resort town in eastern Unova. She answered. Undella Town. I think I heard of it, but I only heard that it's an incredible place for vacation spots. Naruto asked. Having never been there. Cynthia chuckled. To the east of the town is Undella Bay, where you can access an underwater temple known as the Abyssal Ruins. And yes, it is a lovely vacation resort too. Now Naruto, why didn't you call me right away when you first arrived in Kalos? Yeah I know but, Cynthia pressed on, you know I worry about my little brother. You don't want me to fly over there and pick you up myself, do you? Naruto shifted remorsefully. No, I got to Kalos early this morning, but I was. So why didn't you call? Was there anything IATE that needed your attention that badly? Well, no. Naruto admitted softly making the blonde young lady sigh. Naruto, I expect you to be more responsible than this. I do not care if it's Arceus itself that needs to speak with you, you can spare a few minutes to call and let me, or Steven know where you are. We ask for a call once in a while because we care. The Sinnoh champ scolded, and Naruto nodded. Now that you understand, please tell me about your journey so far. Cynthia joked with a small smile. Did you get to Santaloon City yet? She questioned. No, not yet. I was going "Ing to call you when I first got there by the way," Naruto answered. The Sinnoh region champion and the blonde teen conversated for a while longer until she had to end the phone call on her end. "I have to go, Naruto. Be safe and remember to call us, okay?" The slender young lady smiled, waving farewell, and when Naruto reciprocated, the X-trans cut off. Naruto sighed, putting the device away, and returned to his now cold lunch. Once everyone was done eating, Naruto cleaned up with everyone pitching in to get the job done quickly before continuing on his way to Santalune City after returning the others into their Pokeballs. Except for Hikari. Shortly after arriving in Santalune City, the Kalos native couldn't help but be excited as they got closer to the Santalune City gym. The blonde passed by a fountain, which has a metal sculpture of a Roselia, a small boutique, which specializes in selling hats. Already exploring the city, a bit more, he finally discovered the gym on the east side of town. By the Pokemon Trainer School in the where he spotted young trainers outside learning all the intricacies of Pokemon battling. Naruto opened the entrance to the gym, spotting a female receptionist at the front. The blonde informed her he was here for a gym battle. The receptionist bowed before scurrying off to inform the gym leader no, he was here for a battle. While the blonde waited, he went to look around the lounge area. It was decorated with various photographs the blonde assumed to be taken by the gym leader. On the way west towards the Santalune City gym, as he let Hikari out and allowed her to turn herself invisible as she sat on his shoulder, although he would feel her shift once in a while for some reason, he didn't mind the extra weight. The gaze landed on a stunning snapshot of a Vaporeon and Lumineon swimming in slow circles directly in the moon's reflection in a shallow pond. "These are some amazing photos, huh, Hikari?" The petite fire type took that as a cue to show herself, which she nodded in agreement. She beamed, captivated at all the photographs on display. A small flash of a camera went off from across the room. The duo was surprised by the unexpected flash. It caught them both off guard for a second. Sorry, I didn't mean to take your picture without asking. I couldn't resist seeing the two of you sharing a private moment together. I love for these kinds of tourish," a slim blonde said, walking to the two with her camera. A slim young girl with blonde hair cut in a chin-length bob which curls under, with green eyes, wearing a white vest, grayish cropped pants and brown ankle boots with laces, grinned at the pair. "It's not every day you see a Victini up close and personal," the girl joked, fixing the lenses of her expensive camera. Hikari was about to cry owing she was caught on camera. She vanished once again in tears. "Hikari doesn't like people taking pictures of her, can you please delete that?" "I'm sorry, I didn't know." The blonde girl was scrolling through her camera, about to delete the photo she took, but stopped when the fire type reappeared behind the unknown girl. Observing the photo she just took, Hikari was entranced by how good it turned out. "Me and Papa," Hikari thought to herself, smiling at the photograph. "Do you like it?" the blonde-haired girl asked, beaming up at the mythical Pokemon. Hikari nodded with a blush. "How about this? I got a copy of this picture if I promise I not to show this to anyone, Hikari. Is it alright if I keep this picture just for myself when I need some motivation in the near future, pretty please? Something this special is a shot of a lifetime." Viola asked, pledging with a bow to the mythical Pokemon hovering behind her. Hikari thought for a moment before nodding in agreement, indeed wanting the image of her papa and her for herself to keep. The blonde girl fist pumped in enthusiasm. "Oh, by the way, my name is Viola, the Santalune City gym leader and a user of bug-type Pokemon as well as a professional photographer. It is nice to meet you both." She reached out, shaking the hand of her fellow blonde. "Hello Viola, my name is Naruto Uzumaki and you just met Hikari. I was hoping to challenge you to a gym battle," he exclaimed in excitement. "Very well, I accept your challenge, Naruto. Follow me this way to the battlefield," she said as he followed the female gym leader as Hikari glided over to perch herself back on Naruto's shoulder. Viola slid the doors open to reveal a conventional battlefield, but the outer exterior looks like a greenhouse. "I like your gym's design," the teen said in admiration. "Thanks. This place was as well created as a statuary for bug-type Pokemon to live if incapacitated, and it's also perfect for live shots on my free time." She smirked while adjusting her camera around her neck. "How are we going to do this?" he exclaimed, turning away from the female photographer before walking over to the opposite side of the battlefield. Spotting the receptionist going toward the middle as the judge, Viola walked over to the other end of the room while the gym assistant stepped toward the middle to be the battle official. Alright. This is a 2-on-2 battle, between gym leader, Viola and Naruto Uzumaki. The winner shall be declared when one side is unable to continue, and only the challenger may substitute their Pokémon. Are the conditions understood? Both blondes nodded. Very well then, let's begin. Trainers, please send out your first Pokémon. The gym assistant called out to the two trainers. Viola and let out her first Pokémon, a Surskit. A blue insectoid Pokémon. There are semicircular pink markings under its dark, circular eyes. It has a round body with 4 long, skinny legs extending from it. On top of its head is a yellow cap with a single antenna. Surskit huh? The Uzumaki held up his Pokédex for more information. Surskit. Pond Skater Pokémon. When this Pokémon senses danger, a sweet fluid oozes from the tip of its head. The taste of it disgusts bird Pokémon. If it's in a pinch, it will secrete a sweet liquid from the tip of its head. Level 12 abilities, Swift Swim, Rain Dish. This Surskit is female and registered to Viola. Alright, let's go Thor. The small electric type came out rotating his arms, charging up for battle. Match begin. The ref shouted, signaling the battle. Surskit use Ice Beam on the entire field. The little water bee, UG, covers the field in a solid sheet of ice. Elekid almost slipped before catching himself. Surskit use Water Pulse while Elekid's guards down. The Pond Skater Pokémon gracefully skated across the Phi. LD gracefully making its way over to Thor. Surskit lifted up its 2 front legs before firing the ball of water at its opponent. Thor crossed its forearms blocking the orb of water, but the attack still connected. Slammed roughly against the electric type, making it slide back a bit. Jump and use Mud Shot. The Pond Skater Pokémon shot up the air, firing a massive ball of mud at Thor head-on. Thor. Use Cross Chop into the battlefield to use the ice as a barrier. Thor crosses its arms to form an X, ramming the icy ground with its crossed arms and pushing them back with its hands. Pushing the FR. Ost up like a buffer, using the fence of ice as a shield from her attacks. Use Thunder Wave now. The Elekid did as he was told, releases a stream of electricity at the opponent from its body, trying to paralyzing the tiny water bug type. Dodge it quick Surskit. Viola commanded desperately, hoping her Pokémon can dodge the small blast of electricity. Surskit hastily dodges the bolts of yellow electricity, just barely getting away. The bug specialist inwardly gritted her teeth at that. She hadn't expected the boy to pull such a tactic. She didn't want to risk what he knew would be guaranteed paralysis. Now Thor quickly used a 2 Thunder Punch combo, followed by Signal Beam and a Dynamic Punch jab from above. Naruto instructed. The heavily detailed command caught Viola by surprise, almost doubting what she'd heard the blonde call out and not sure if the small electric Pokémon could even do what was demanded. Thor did as he was told, flipping back slightly as both of his fists surround D itself by yellow electricity, making the ice around him start to melt before concentrating and aiming the multi-colored beam from its antennas, canceling out the ground type attack, having them collide with an explosion, making everyone cover themselves from the aftershock. As the smoke cleared away, revealing Surskit as struggling to stand, however it was quickly punched by Thor as he appeared above to make the finishing blow. Surskit is unable to battle. Elekid is the winner. The referee called out. Viola scowled as her Pokémon had unquestionably fainted when Elekid smashed its fists into the now thawed battlefield from the barrage of attacks. At that moment, she thanked it for battling hard before recalling back her downed Pokémon. The bug-type specialist watched as Naruto praised Thor. Before getting ready to call out her next Pokémon, she called out to the Uzumaki, "You really good, aren't you? Is this really your first gym battle?" The bug gym leader questioned. "It is. Why do you ask?" Naruto asked, confused as he recalled Thor back to his side. Viola gave a small smirk. To her fellow blonde, "Because you battle like a veteran trainer, the way you are in total sync with your Pokémon, it's truly astounding." Naruto scratched the back of his head, bashfully thanking her for her kind words before the referee started the match once again. Go Vivian. A butterfly-like Pokémon Cam. Out adorned with pinkish colorful decorative patterns on its wings. It has a round, grayish body with large, black, pixelated eyes and a pair of skinny antennas. Vivian. Scale Pokémon. Vivian WI. Many different patterns are found all over the world. These patterns are affected by the climate of their habitat. The patterns on this Pokémon's wings depend on the climate and topography of its habitat. It scatters colorful scales. Level 17 abilities. Shield Dust, Compound Eyes, Friend Guard. This Vivillon is female and registered to Viola. The blonde showed a calm exterior as he put away his Pokédex. The blonde went over the high chance of speed-based attacks, and waved for Thor to come back to him. Come on back, Thor, let's give aim a turn, okay. The Elekid pouted but then saluted the blonde. D as a soldier nodded before standing by his side to watch while his trainer called out his alternate Pokémon. The bubble frog appeared with a hop to its name as it prepared for battle. Viola contained a frown, confused by the Uzumaki's choice of Pokémon even though Elekid had the type advantage but did not think too much about two. Nevertheless, she'd still win while in the air and Vivillon's speed. Vivillon. Begin with Sunny Day and follow with Acrobatics. The pink-winged butterfly cries towards the sky, causing the sun to shine brighter. Then instantly flew out of sight, striking the frog into the ground as Naruto retaliated. Aim, quick attack. Aim strikes bug type easily hitting its mark, but wasn't enough damage. Use water pulse. Froakie creates a blue sphere of energy from in between its hands. It then fires the sphere at the butterfly. Dodge it, then finish it off with solar beam. Vivillon momentarily glows a faint yellow. Numerous yellow balls appear and float around Viv. Ilan as a larger ball forms between its antennae and it fires a beam of energy at aim. The powerful grass attack collided into the ground creating an immense blast, covered their eyes until nothing as clouding their vision from the impact. As the smoke cleared away, revealing an empty battlefield with Froakie missing. Where did he go? The bug specialist and scale Pokémon looked from one place to another for the bubble frog. Not noticing the smirk on Naruto's face. Aim follow up with an icy water pulse. The blonde quickly called before Viola could strike back. Froakie. The water type. Called as it had done what it had trained to do with that command as it jumped high in the air past the dense smoke rising over the scale Pokémon at high speeds launching chilling covered water pulses in all directions. Evade with aerial ace. Viola exclaimed, but even with the scaled butterfly following the command, it couldn't evade the continuous bombardment of ice. Eventually, it was struck a ND sent crashing into the ground as more sheets of ice-coated water pulses struck Vivillon as it whimpered its name in a dizzy faint. Vivillon is unable to battle. Froakie is the winner. The referee called the battle. This battle goes to Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde and his Pokémon cheered. You did it, Aim. We won. The tiny frog Pokémon croaked in agreement as he hopped over to perch himself onto the whiskered trainer's shoulder. Not minding his injuries, Thor also applauded from their win. The gym leader shut her eyes in defeat as she recalled her fallen Pokémon and giving Naruto a large smirk. You are definitely not what I expected. You're really good. The blonde beamed as he petted Aim and Thor before recalling them both. Thanks, I really appreciate hearing that. Viola grabbed art camera before reappearing once more before the Uzumaki, while the gym official walked over with a small tray hand. You have shown your strength in defeating me. May you remember this battle with pride and humility. The bug-type gym leader wisely spoke as she presented Naruto the bug badge. Naruto put the badge inside his orange badge case. Thank you, Viola, that was an amazing battle, Naruto said, giving her a small bow. Victini was hovering over with a small wave. You bet, I hope we battle again soon, the gym leader exclaimed with a grin. Pulling out a photo from behind her back, offering it to Victini. Hikari took the photo in excitement, showing her adopted father as he patted her head gently. A promise is a promise. I had one of my reliable assistants get it developed away from prying eyes. So you don't have to worry about someone seeing it, she smiled as she walked the pair out. Hikari turned invisible once more when arriving outside. Where are you heading next? Heading toward the next gym badge. She asked as Naruto nodded. Sillage City is to the north of Route 10. You can get there by going through the connecting caves, she informed the blonde. Before returning back into the gym as the blonde walked away. We should spend the night at the Pokémon Center. Naruto exclaimed, hurriedly jogged along the way. That was an impressive battle. You, too, Nova talking about Bo. The electric type and the bubble frog. He felt them both shift inside their Pokeballs from the praise. Yeah, but next time let us battle too, Mars said. For once we agree on something, Nova agreed with his fellow legendary. You know I can't do that, you guys will probably destroy the entire gym. The blonde chuckled lightheartedly. This is just the beginning, 1 down 7 more to go. Until my dream can be realized. The blonde opened his badge case once more, eyeing his first ever gym badge, beaming proudly. He closed the case while shifting Hikari on his shoulder to a more comfortable spot, ready dashing toward the Pokémon Center to give his teammates the rest they rightfully deserved. Froakie, Aim, Level 11 Male Abilities, Torrent, Protean Pokeball. Attacks, Pound, Lick, Mud Sport, Quick Attack, Water Pulse, Icy Wind. Elekid, Thor, Level 25 Male, Abilities, Static, Vital Spirit, Quick Ball. Attacks, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Dynamic Punch, Thunderbolt, Quick Attack, Signal Beam, Low Kick, Thunder Wave. Shock Wave, Swift, Light Screen, Cross Chop, Brick Break. Metang, Chrome, Level 37 Genderless Abilities, Clear Body, Light Metal Heavy Ball. Attacks, Metal Claw, Confusion, Ice Punch, Iron Head. Zen Headbutt, Thunder Punch, Psychic, Bullet Punch, Pursuit, Magnet Rise, Light Screen, Earthquake, Sludge Bomb, Rock Polish, Power Up Punch, Rock Slide, Body Slam. Vict, Ini, Hikari, Level 45 Female Abilities, Victory Star Dream Ball. Attacks, Quick Attack, Headbutt, Incinerate, Searing Shot, Zen Headbutt, Flame Charge, Sunny Day, Thunder, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Fire Blast, Energy Ball, Focus Blast. Dazzling Gleam, Will-O-Wisp, Psyshock, Grass Knot, V-Create, Bolt Strike, Blue Flare, Glaciate. Zoroark, Menma Level 47 Female, Abilities, Illusion Luxury Ball. Attacks, Night Slash, Scratch, Pursuit. Hone Claws, Fury Swipes, Agility, Night Daze, Calm Mind, Roar, Toxic, Taunt, Hyper Beam, Protect, Return, Shadow Ball, Double Team, Flamethrower, Aerial Ace, Thief, Round, Focus Blast, Shadow Claw. U-Turn, Substitute, Snarl, Dark Pulse, Sucker Punch, Extrasensory, Counter, Copycat, Low Kick, Uproar, Foul Play, Hyper Voice, Knock Off. Gyarados, Tessa Level 52 Fey. Male, Abilities, Intimidate, Moxie Lure Ball. Attacks, Twister, Ice Fang, Aqua Tail, Scary Face, Dragon Rage, Crunch, Hydro Pump, Dragon Dance, Hurricane, Rain Dance, Hyper Beam, Iron Head, Bounce, Dragon Pulse, Water Pulse, Outrage, Roar. Ice Beam, Blizzard, Thunder, Earthquake, Return, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Scald, Giga Impact, Stone Edge, Thunder Wave, Dragon Tail, Swagger, Surf, Dark Pulse, Waterfall. Sceptile, Saber, Level 60 Male, Abilities, Overgrow, Unburdened Safari Ball. Attacks, Night Slash, Quick Attack, Pursuit, Leaf Blade, Agility, Detect, Dragon Claw, Hidden Power, Sunny Day, Hyper Beam, Solar Beam, Earthquake. Return, Brick Break, Double Team, Aerial Ace, Energy Ball, Acrobatics, Swords Dance, Rock Slide, X-Scissor, Razor Wind, Bullet Seed, Frenzy Plant, Dual Chop, Seed Bomb, Low Kick, Thunder Punch. Dragon Pulse, Iron Tail, Synthesis. Raikou, Zeus Level 62 Genderless. In the story Mewtwo is a male. Abilities, Pressure, Volt Absorb, Fast Ball. Attacks, Extrasensory, Aura Sphere, Discharge, Bite, Thunder Shock. Roar, Quick Attack, Crunch, Thunder Fang, Rain, Calm Mind, Thunder, Hidden Power, Hyper Beam, Thunderbolt, Return, Shadow Ball, Double Team, Reflect, Sandstorm, Volt Switch, Thunder Wave, Bulldoze. Substitute, Wild Charge, Signal Beam, Iron Head, Magnet Rise, Iron Tail, Shock Wave, Dig, Headbutt, Zap Cannon, Detect. Gengar, Cage, Level 65 Male, Abilities. Abilities, Cursed Body, Levitate, Dusk Ball. Attacks, Shadow Punch, Hypnosis, Lick, Mean Look, Curse, Night Shade, Confuse Ray, Sucker Punch, Shadow Ball, Dream Eater, Dark Pulse, Destiny Bond, Hex, Nightmare, Toxic, Venoshock, Taunt. Protect, Thunder, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Brick Break, Double Team, Sludge Bomb, Torment, Energy Ball, Will-O-Wisp, Shadow Claw, Poison Jab, Dazzling Gleam, Disable, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, Ice Punch. Foul Play, Knock Off. Rayquaza, Sora level 72 genderless. In the story Mewtwo is a male. Abilities: Airlock, Ultra Ball. Attacks: Twister, Ancient Power, Rest, Extreme Speed, Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw. Roar, Sunny Day, Ice Beam, Blizzard, Hyper Beam, Rain Dance, Beam, Thunder, Earthquake, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Overheat, Focus Blast, Giga Impact, Stone Edge, Fly, Rock Slide, Dragon Tail, Surf. Draco Meteor, Iron Head, Aqua Tail, Dragon Pulse, Hyper Voice, Iron Tail, Bind, Tailwind, Shock Wave, Pulse, Outrage, Defog, Dive, Dragon Ascent, Whirlpool, Body Slam, Double Edge. Salamence Toru, level 72 female. Abilities: Intimidate, Moxie Friend Ball. Attacks: Ember, Fire Fang, Thunder Fang, Zen Headbutt, Fly, Crunch, Dragon Claw, Hyper Beam, Earthquake, Return, Fire Blast, Steel Wing. Shadow Claw, Dragon Dance, Hydro Pump, Dragon Pulse, Aqua Tail, Iron Tail, Hyper Voice, Draco Meteor, Body Slam, Heat Wave, Toxic, Stone Edge, Protect. Genesect Mars L. Evil 89 genderless. In the story Mewtwo is a male. Abilities: Download Cherish Ball. Attacks: Shift Gear, Fell Stinger, Magnet Rise, Metal Claw, Techno Blast, Fury Cutter, Lock On, Flame Charge, Magnet Bomb, Slash, Metal Sound. Signal Beam, X Scissor, Bug Buzz, Simple Beam, Zap Cannon, Hyper Beam Electroweb, Toxic, Hidden Power, Ice Beam, Blizzard, Light Screen, Protect, Solar Beam, Thunderbolt, Psychic, Double Team, Flamethrower. Rest, Energy Ball, Shadow Claw, Giga Impact, Rock Polish, Thunder Wave, Infestation, U-Turn, Substitute, Flash Cannon, Dark Pulse, Hone Claws. Mewtwo Nova, level 10. 0 genderless. In the story Mewtwo is a male. Abilities: Pressure, Unnerve, Master Ball. Attacks: Psychic, Aura Sphere, Psystrike, Psycho Cut, Recover, Future Sight, Disable, Blizzard, Earthquake, Shadow Ball, Fire Blast, Thunder. Focus Punch, Foul Play, Gravity, Stone Edge, Rest, Solar Beam, Rain Dance, Sunny Day, Sandstorm, Hail, Psyshock, Focus Blast, Water Pulse, Telekinesis, Giga Impact, Poison Jab, Thunder Wave, Toxic, Double Team. Safeguard, Protect, Light Screen, Calm Mind, Hidden Power, Magic Coat. That's it for today. I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please, consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and don't forget to check out my Patreon. Details in description.